Welcome to Warhammer, bonus episode.
Welcome back to Lorehammer, the only podcast that tells you to regularly get your prostate checked. Christian, when was your last checkup?
Yesterday.
Good man. Good
And the
man.
day before that.
I know.
I get a check
I
every day.
administered them.
Who? What?
All right.
Eric's a doctor. He told me he was a doctor.
Trust me, I'm a doctor. Welcome to Lorehammer. My name is Eric.
Hey.
That's Mark, of course.
This is Jordan.
And then joining us once again for the last time.
No, he's a permanent guest now.
Nope.
I'm going to be on every episode
This
from
is the
now on.
last time he's ever going to be on our podcast.
No, me and Christian are starting a revolution.
The fans have
It's going to be
spoken.
the Christian and Mark podcast. You're going to be the guest from now on, Eric.
No.
Welcome to Lorehammer. I'm
Good luck
Christian,
never doing a podcast.
And I'm Mark, and we are professionals.
And today we have Eric on
I'm
as
the
a guest.
one wearing the tie right now.
Ugh.
You're the one wearing a Lorehammer shirt, Mark.
Yeah, but what am I wearing under the Lorehammer shirt? That's the question.
Doesn't even matter.
This is what our bonus episode's going to be about. What am I wearing under my shirt?
Everyone, get your bets in. Yeah, welcome. This is going to be our fourth bonus episode that we're releasing for everyone, and a lot of it, well, not a lot of it, it is about homemade, which you've probably heard before us call it shelf armies.
Yes.
So these are the armies that exist on the shelf in Mark's garage.
As most armies do.
Right.
Just not in the garage, but most armies exist on the shelf.
In some form of
Yes.
or another.
Yeah.
And what this episode is all going to be about is it's not going to have anything to do with what is actually canon in 40K. What it is us.
Fan fiction. It's just a...
Really?
I think technically we will be talking about one race that is in 40K.
Oh, sure.
There are
but
a couple that tie in, yeah.
Well, we will be talking
But
about
none of the
demiurge.
armies have real representation on tabletop.
But
What
there
we're
is a
doing-
demiurge, and yeah. Anywho, sorry to derail
No,
you.
no.
But
It is-
I just want to make sure that people know that the demiurge are out there. They're coming
exist.
for you.
They're real. I was abducted once.
I seen them.
They check my prostate.
I conducted an anal probe.
Right, guys, it's Prostate Awareness
Guys.
Day in Jordan's house.
Can
right
we
now,
just
so-
keep this a little more civil? My mom could be listening to this. Okay, just let's dial
All right,
it back
Mark.
a notch.
Snap.
What's wrong with her?
Drop the pants. It's time to get your prostate checked. That's what we're doing on this episode.
Yeah, there's literally nothing like adult about that. Like
Well,
About
No.
a man sticking his full hand up to the elbow,
hand.
up your
Eric
ass.
was just going to do a
when
finger.
was the last time you got your checked? 'Cause I don't think
I
they
never
did-
have.
I don't think they did it right.
No, I seen
You went to the
Mark,
back
do you
alley
wanna-
doctor.
Do you want to talk about
I
this?
seen videos on the internet, and that's what they were doing.
and that's for medical purposes. There's nothing 18A about that.
Have you guys never
It
heard
depends on the look on your face. So if you're doing one of these, it's not good. If you're doing one of these, then it's acceptable. It's
Oh.
there's a fine line. If you got a smile on,
It's fine.
no, wait,
I don't
you're
know.
doing it
I'm
wrong.
so bad at this. But the reason that I guess you even ever started, because this was like Mark's and Christian's brainchild, really. I didn't have much
Yeah,
to do
me
with
and
this
Christian are
conception.
actually friends. Like we enjoy each other.
The truth comes out. We're
Yeah.
closeted friends.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you're more than that.
And up
I
in
mean, it happens in the closet, so how are we supposed to know what happens?
prostate exam. No, but like up until we started the podcast, me and you, Eric and Jordan, like I bounced all my ideas off Christian, and he bounced all his ideas off me, and you know,
Many
Eric, you
fa-
would sneak in every now and again.
Many failed armies from Christian. Many
were squashed in my iron fist.
more just his lack of what follow through,
Follow thing.
finish. Some would say.
Okay.
I'm told that's a good thing.
If ever there was a man who
Never
has
finish.
trouble finishing, it's
is not.
Christian.
But yeah, basically they're a way to in 40K over the years, and like we've been in it for such a long time. Over the years, it's like every release is just Imperium.
Yeah, there was
Imperium.
a stretch there not that far back where like everything just got super stale.
Yeah.
Like, it was just
hey, you
constant.
like Space Marines? Here's
it,
Blood
it
Angels.
seemed
now.
like they
Yeah.
released a bunch of 6th edition stuff that was Imperium, and then they started 7th edition and just
Yeah.
redid all the Imperium stuff.
Yeah, so
and
it-
there was no good flavor out there.
Yeah, so what we ended up doing was we ended up wanting more Xenos because the galaxy is such a big place. And if you've listened to our other episodes, we listed off like 150 already established Xenos races. But there's no models. You barely ever hear of them. You only hear Blood Angels and Space Wolves. So this was our attempt to try to introduce new armies into the lore and into the tabletop.
Yeah.
Onto the tabletop.
Yeah, so, and essentially what you would do is you would take rules that were already established within the game, and you would change the flavor of them and create armies for the aliens within rules that already exist. So it's not like you're creating... It's not like you're not doing heresy. You're not adding to the game.
But we would take like a unit from the Tyranids and a unit from Orcs and put them into the
combine
same codex.
codices.
So it's like a lot of the army lists that we're
Battle
making.
forged, quote unquote.
Well, yeah, now it's a thing, but back then it wasn't.
Yeah.
Right.
So a lot of the armies that we do have, they're not at all legal.
No,
But
you couldn't play them at an ITC.
no.
No, not
Apparently, some people don't even let you cheat in the garage when you're playing with your friends.
Keyword
your close friends.
Being cheating?
Garage?
Or
What?
Keyword being friends.
Either one is a lie and propaganda. I will not have it. I will not have my name sullied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there were a couple like rules or restrictions that you placed on yourself though as you're creating not only the rules for these shelf armies but also some of the stories of what they
so
were.
we wanted, like, this is Lorehammer, so Mark and I obviously like the lore, so we didn't want to just have plastic models with no backstories. So we kind of went out of our way to actually create backstories for each race, and we made these rules. So the first one is that it cannot openly contradict or conflict with established canon.
Yeah.
So you can't...
Obviously, any of these Xenos races are not the largest power in the galaxy.
Yeah.
Like that just
Can't
breaks
say
Not
the
even
lore.
in top 10.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or like this Xenos race like landed on Terra and killed the Emperor, and now they're in charge of Terra.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. Like, it can only add to the lore that already exists.
Yeah.
We can modify a few small things, but we cannot openly contradict anything.
Yeah, so that was rule 1. Rule number 2.
We had to maintain the themes of 40K. Grimdark, historical, space operas. We wanted the races to fit in with the existing lore and factions. We didn't want to just bring in a pre-existing race from another genre and just try and mash it into 40K.
Yeah.
Still had to feel with the tone of 40K.
And then we also tried on that level 2 to not just introduce races into 40K, but try to give them like a backstory where they might have been around even since like the old ones.
Sure, because a lot of races are very old and have a lot of history. It's
Yeah.
just your world has just never been discovered.
Yeah, so it's not like it's just like these new empires that spring up. Like some of them are, but we tried to give them a little more foundation.
Yeah. And then one thing that was a big restriction that was both a rule on us, but a rule with what was out there is they had to have models that we're able to play on the tabletop with. So we had to find ranges of models that had enough models to make an army with, or enough variety within them to be able to create units that kind of fit.
That would fit with the rules that you're creating,
exactly.
which would fit with the flavor of the race that you're creating.
Exactly. So in
So
that
you
one,
kind of had to have those three things come together. You had to have a good story, you had to have rules that fit that story, and you had to have models that fit the rules in the story.
So part of it was our creativity, but part of it too was like out of our control, right? There are only so many other models with enough guys that are interesting and unique enough for us to actually create armies out of.
Yeah.
So those obviously are going to play a role into the story of what the model, like what he looks like, their armor, their weapon loadouts, stuff like that.
Yeah. But all in all, I think none of them were unhappy with. Like, I think
none of them are like, I hate that.
Yeah, or like none of them felt forced. Like, how can we really want this? How can we make? Yeah, it all felt like it went together pretty smoothly.
Naturally. Yeah.
Well, it helps because some of us, and I won't name names, but some of us like to spend all our time on the internet looking at Warhammer things, and just because of your knowledge of like where to get these knockoff GW stuff.
No,
Whoa,
none of them
hold
are
on.
knockoff GW. They're unique individual models.
Yeah, but it is a really cool dynamic to see on like the shelf, right? When you go look at it, it's really cool to see all the different types of armies that you have on there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
right now
I
a bunch
really
of them are
enjoy
still
that.
a work in progress. If people are interested, we can post pictures as they get completed. We have like one or two armies that are
Yeah.
getting close to done.
Well,
And some
they're
of
all
them-
built with 7th, right? So now they all need to be updated.
No, all of them are fine. They're fine.
Mark went over them all with a fine-tooth comb. He tells me
I
that
don't believe that
he's
for
modified
a
them.
heartbeat. But it's fine. That's not a conversation for this podcast.
Eric's a little bitter.
Bitter.
Yeah, because I took a couple extra bolt guns in the game.
It wasn't even against me.
It wasn't even against him. Also, I shorted myself out 150 points. In
And he still won.
and I still won.
And he still won.
But those bolt guns were what
The game
sealed
changers.
the deal.
That's
those
it.
three
If
bolters.
you didn't have those bolt guns on those Imperial Guardsmen,
Yeah,
you
on
would
those-
not have won.
So,
I'm decreeing.
but yeah, like that's so. What we're gonna talk about is we're gonna get into like each of these races that we made. I think we did 6.
6 or 8, I can't remember. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be an even number because it's got to slot in with the other races that exist.
Yeah, but and we're gonna talk about like the lore that we came up with them. We're gonna talk about their models, and then we're gonna talk briefly about the rules. And some of them are still work in progress, like when it comes to either exactly what rules we're gonna use or exactly what models. But I think we've nailed like a lot of it down
Yeah.
enough that we can release it.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any aggregator of like Warhammer fan fiction out there? Maybe
That's
be it
actually
on
a good question.
on Reddit or some other forum.
I'm sure it exists. I've actually never
That would be kind of
looked into
an
it.
interesting look to see what other people's, even like the fan art and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The really good fan fiction finds its way usually on 1D4chan. I
Yeah.
find.
Okay.
Some of those stories
Yeah.
get on there. Or like
It-
the really interesting stuff. I won't maybe call it good, but interesting.
yeah.
I find when making lore, people end up trying to make their people the best, or they try to end up just making them like so unbelievable, like in terms of lore, where it would be like,
They don't really fit.
yeah, they don't fit, and that's why we put our limitations on ourselves. Like we want them to seem like they're actually part of 40K.
Yeah.
And like if we were to introduce like a new person into the garage to play, like you could point to one of these shelf armies and be like, oh yeah, they always belonged, you know? Like,
Yeah. They wouldn't bat an eye. They wouldn't stand out as
Yeah.
being weird that they're
But-
in there.
And a lot of that is going to come all down to the scale, right? The scale of the force or the race that you're creating. Because, like, and what exactly what Mark's saying is, like, you create something that's too powerful. Like, any race that could potentially contend with humanity or Necrons or Eldar just would never fit. And
Yeah.
the fanfic, it wouldn't be a fanfic. It would just be like
some fan
a
jerking
rewrite.
off in his room writing about stupid stuff.
Right. It would just be a
Like,
rewrite of the galaxy.
There's
It
some
wouldn't-
horrible fan stuff out there that just. No offense
There's
to
also
people's
some good
writing.
stuff out there.
Oh sure,
though.
yeah.
There's
But
some
it-
stuff that like even Missing Primarch stuff, which is usually like forbidden territory. I've been like, that's a cool idea.
Sure,
It's rare,
It's
but it's
very
happened.
rare.
It has happened.
but yeah. Okay, so let's get into them. Let's get into
All
our
right.
Xenos races. Christian, you can go.
Okay, cool. So we'll start with what we call the Mangani Confederacy. They're a powerful race of ape-like Xenos creatures who roam the galaxy as loosely related bands. They lack a singular cohesive leadership, but exist more as a confederation of independent worlds and marauding fleets. The Mangani once ruled a small region of space and were first encountered by the Imperium of Man during the Great Crusade. The Mangani proved to be fierce opponents, but could not ultimately compete with the numbers and resources of the Imperium. The race was spared extermination when the outbreak of the Horus Heresy redirected the Imperium's resources inwards and away from their campaigns. The Mangani scattered out into the stars and colonized fringe worlds, or elected to remain on vast fleets hopping from world to world in pursuit of new prey and challenges. The heads of the various warbands, known as chiefs or war chiefs, are responsible for providing for their family bands, negotiating alliances, and leading their fellows in war. They have been known to turn on their tribes as well as fighting external threats. Sometimes the Mangani have been known to start large raiding parties and launch excursions against other species, or breaking off into smaller hunting parties, or even leaving their family band to wander the galaxy as individual hunters. Technologically, the Mangani are relatively advanced, relying on powered armor and using combustion-propelled weapons, similar to stubber and autocannon technology. The Mangani are devastating close combat warriors and often use savage blades and superior strength and their mass to overwhelm their foes. They're capable of space travel, however, because of their lack of warp-capable craft, they take longer journeys. Despite this, their craft are still capable of traversing the galaxy at a reasonably faster than light speeds. The Mangani have a warrior culture, which may be observed as unforgiving, of weakness, and it's very brutal. Their society also revolves around the hunt, and the Mangani constantly roam the galaxy looking to test their formidable skills against dangerous flora, fauna, and sentient species of the galaxy.
Come here, you plant.
Hey man, in 40K, you've been
Yeah,
planned.
no,
If
I
you've
know.
been to a death world.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
They've also been known to take trophies from their particularly challenging hunts or opponents, and often decorate their ships and armor with such fetishes.
Like flowers.
They put it in their hair.
They worship a single deity, the god of hunters, and many comparisons have been made to that of Koronos of the Eldar mythology. The Mangani do not cast a significant warp presence, nor do Mangani overly concern themselves with the happenings of the warp. They do not think highly of the Imperium as a singular entity, seeing humans as weak and unchallenging in the hunt for warcraft. However, the Mangani respect the warriors of the Adeptus Astartes as honorable warriors and equals on the battlefield. The Mangani have also developed a particular respect for Tyranids, viewing the diverse species as the ultimate prey, adapting constantly to new threats, and always providing a unique and thrilling jaunt for the hunter.
Cool.
So just yeah.
Before we get into like the models, so there's a couple things that right away that I like. I like that during the Horus Heresy, you kind of establish them there, where
They didn't just exist. They pop in later into the game.
yeah, and like they were on the verge of being exterminated, but then when the Horus Heresy happened, like then they were basically spared.
Yeah.
And when we went over all our Xenos races, you kind of see that does happen sometimes. Like, yeah, I like it. It gives them some history to them.
Yeah. So they feel like they've been around a little longer than like say the Tau, for example.
Yeah, I mean that's at least 10,000 years. So
Yeah.
plus the amount of time they spent even just coming up or whatever.
Yeah. I think one thing that's kind of lost too, if you can't see the models, is their physical description. I guess I could have added a little more in there.
It's all good if you want to describe it.
Yeah. So yeah, it does describe them as ape-like, but they're actually very large. They're like as big as a space marine. So they're obviously like really powerful, physically like present.
Like huge upper body too.
Yeah, exactly. So they can obviously compete. That's why they respect the Astartes, because they are like on the same playing field physically, and why like humans are like seen as weak and inferior to them because that's their culture.
Yeah. So to sum it up, space apes.
Yeah,
But
There's a little bit of the Jokero in there.
well,
the whole band.
that's
thing.
orangutans.
nothing to do with each
My
other. Eric.
bad.
Space gorillas, I guess.
There's a little
Yeah.
bit of the orc in there as well.
Yeah, there's some stuff, but
Yeah, I'll talk about the inspirations for it a little
Yeah.
bit later, but we can talk about their models and other things first if you want.
yeah.
So their models, we use the Infinity Range by Corvus Belli from the Combined Army faction. And usually, because that's a mix of different aliens, they're the Morat race, if anyone's familiar with that. So if you want to look them up online and stuff, you can see what they look like. They're depicted as having advanced technology. They do have like heavy power armor. They wear all over their body, except for some units that have it. Have it stripped off. And I just burped.
It was gross.
Did you smell it?
No, think
Does it smell like Dr. Pepper?
Ew.
Stick breath. Dick burps.
Yeah, but they have like they're heavily power armored, and they have small unit sizes. So obviously that's going to play into their role on the battlefield, right? They're going to be more expensive as units.
Like you're
Yeah.
talking like 5 models per unit.
Like the actual entire range probably has just over 15 models of like unique individual models. And because they're pewter, they're mostly metal, so they're hard to convert. So I don't know how much wiggle room we're gonna have with that. We're probably gonna have to
If there's a
supplement.
couple duplicate models, it's gonna be
not the
fine.
biggest deal, yeah,
But-
but
But yeah, it will be. So we'll go into the rules because then it'll give you kind of a better idea of how big of an army you'll be. But so in 500 points, we're going to be using Space Marine rules, and they're just going to be like tactical squads, devastators, and assault marines.
So regular Marines.
Yeah.
yeah.
And how this varies from like our 40k
Existing
Space Marine army
yeah.
is they're Primaris Marines.
Yeah, so we're not bringing Primaris Marines into the shelf armies. What we're going to do is we're going to upgrade the existing Marines to have stats they always should have had,
Yeah.
and be like superior Space Marines.
So these guys will be
They're like
slightly less powerful
step
than
below-
a Primaris.
Yeah, a step
and that's
below
why they would view
Primaris.
them as a challenge.
Yeah, but
Exactly.
still better than Space Marines. Oh, I mean, but better than humans.
Oh, much yes.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
It's a cool benchmark to put them on.
Yeah,
So
because that's another thing too. Like people will be like, "Oh, they can kill 1,000 Space Marines," and you know,
yeah,
just-
exactly.
Oh, when
not-
someone's trying to
Marines,
create an
yeah,
army.
yeah. Space
Yeah.
Marines have to be like the best. They don't have to be the best. You can have better things. Like there's Carnifexes out there.
yeah,
but like
to have like a Xenos race, like why wouldn't they have wiped them out? It doesn't make sense that
Exactly.
they exist. They would have been beaten by whatever was the dominant.
Okay. Humans are just like the number 1 in the galaxy.
Just on numbers, though.
Yeah, just on numbers.
the
Yes.
orcs are.
Oh, actually,
Yeah, orcs are the most numerous. But whatever. Don't question my lore. My head lore. My head canon is.
Head canon.
But yeah, that was another thing that I like too that you put in here too, is that they do fight themselves. So you can
so you
do
can,
that.
if two
And,
people wanted to play against each other.
Yeah, and like it's not a united race too.
Yeah,
which I
they
do
travel
like.
in like small clans.
They feel a much more mercenary style.
Yeah,
much
yeah.
more like roving.
Yeah.
Inhabitants.
So that does tie into like so I was in charge of writing most of the lore, and I obviously drew from a lot of sources and inspirations. The whole roving band kind of thing came from a lot of Viking culture. That's what I kind of drew from. So like going out on like these ships. Most of the
Getting
armies,
your spoils
Yeah.
and then coming back to your family.
yeah, exactly. Most of the armies in 40k do have historical ties. I know Mark doesn't like to talk about it. I don't care. It's there.
This is your time to enlighten us.
Exactly.
With
so
all the things.
So with all the historical inspiration that 40k draws, I felt it was it would kind of fit in better if a lot of Xenos races drew on those same inspirations. So you'll find for a lot of these races, they usually tie into some kind of historical group or faction. So definitely the raiding Viking type feeling. Hunters is part of their culture too, like hunting like big prey. That obviously comes from like Predator influences from the Predator.
Did you kind of get a feel like when you were writing this? What did it kind of come off as in like there's like tests or challenges, and like part of proving who you are as a Mangani would be like going out and hunting something in particular or bringing back like a trophy for the band?
Yeah,
Because that's kind of
Well, they
a
do take
feel-
like those
they take
fetishes or whatever.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
but it's almost
So trophies
like,
and
would
stuff.
would you be acknowledged as like a full like
I
contributing
didn't
member?
get that detailed with their culture, but if in your mind that's what you picture, like I
It's
wouldn't say
definitely
it's
the
not.
route I feel like it's going down.
Oh, yeah.
It has a very Rakghoul feel to it almost.
I think the only comparison there is just the whole hunting aspect of it, but that's not all these guys are about. Like the Rakghoul will kill regardless of like how they kill. With these guys, I picture more as like not honorable fighters, but they're definitely not
They do
doing
have-
underhanded tactics.
Yeah, exactly. They
to win
look
a
for
fight.
an equal fight.
Yeah,
and that's
and
the
that's
thing.
why they
They
respect
challenge
Space Marines and
themselves
stuff. Yeah.
exactly by picking
But-
out like the biggest baddest enemy to fight.
Yeah, so I think if you just take away the word hunting and replace it with like just fighting, like they enjoy the fight. Like I think then it'll kind of take you away from that Rakghoul
mentality.
mind.
Yeah.
okay.
Other obvious influences with them are like the brutes from Halo, just a lot of like the tribal like war like influences, and obviously their look. Again, if you look up the models, there's obviously going to be links there. A little bit of Goth and barbarian hordes kind of feeling with them, because like the Imperium is almost like Rome, so then you have like these barbaric tribes that kind of roam
Constantly
the galaxy.
with the thorn on the side.
Exactly, right? Like as an individuals, they don't really pose a threat, but like you get enough barbarian cultures, you have orcs out there, you have, they're threatening civilized society in the form of the Imperium.
Yeah.
And finally, their name actually just comes from Tarzan. So the gorillas in Tarzan are actually not gorillas in the original Tarzan work. They're actually called Mangani, and they're supposed to be this like superior form of gorilla that's almost like half human, half gorilla. Like they're supposed to be super smart. And
Well, they are. They can speak.
wow,
Have you not seen the cartoon?
the Disney version of Tarzan?
Yeah.
That is accurate. No, that's like from the original stuff. So that's kind of where their name came from. So yeah, that's it
Yeah.
on the Mangani.
Edgar Rice Burroughs, the guy who wrote Tarzan,
Yeah,
has a lot of really interesting science fiction too.
does he?
Yeah.
I only know about.
He's like a
Tarzan.
very influential, like like Princess of Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he wrote that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like he's a very influential, actually sci-fi writer. But Tarzan was one of his like
Random
views.
side things.
But it doesn't surprise me that he has it was a more like mystical.
yeah,
The distinction between the real versus
Yeah,
something.
yeah, it was like
Yeah.
fantasy.
Yeah, totally. Anyways,
No, that's cool. I
Yeah.
actually didn't know that. Yeah, but that's it about the Mangani.
That's the Mangani.
So I'm gonna read the next one.
Of course, you are.
They are called the Demiurge. We've talked about them before. They are actually a thing in 40k. So here we go. I think we did do some slight tweaking. Well, maybe not tweaking, but more adding to it. Why are you doing that face, Eric?
Because you stole my iPad.
Look at my screen. I cannot
I know,
read.
I'm
I
just
have
kidding.
a hard enough time.
I'm just kidding.
Mark's actually not gonna read. I'm gonna whisper it into his ear, and then he's gonna verbalize what I'm telling him.
Yeah. So the demiurge. Oh, another thing too is you did choose like a faction logo for everything.
Yeah.
So I was just scrolling through our notes here, and
Yeah, they all have like a symbol that kind of represents them.
yeah, like everyone knows what the Tau symbol is. Christian chose like a symbol for each one of them
Yeah.
too. Yeah. So the demiurge are a short, gruff humanoid race of technologically advanced miners and traders. They've probed the galaxy for precious materials for thousands of years and generally kept away from the greater conflicts of the galaxy at large. Because of their reliance on trade, however, they do maintain cordial relations with
Cordial.
yeah. Many relations with many Xenos races, including the Tau Empire. They are physically imposing, if not very tall, and specialize in ion and graviton.
Yes.
Yeah.
These are words.
Those are from the
Technology.
actual lore. I didn't
Is it
even write
graviton? I've never
Yeah.
heard of their graviton technology.
Yeah, it's what the Imperium uses with their grav weapons.
Well, I've heard of that with Imperium.
Yeah, but that's
I didn't know it
the
was-
general.
They get it from them.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
it's like the technology is the same way like plasma weapons. All races have a version of it, and like melta weapons, they'll have a version.
Yeah. The demiurge appear to have no homeworld, or at least have abandoned it in favor of spacecraft. They are known to avoid Imperial space unless invited in, making them a very uncommon sight. And they are described as defensively hostile and non-militaristic, though the number of sightings in the Ultima Segmentum has increased over the recent centuries. The demiurge are organized into brotherhoods, though any further information on brotherhood is unknown beyond the rumors from rogue traders that one brotherhood is typically present upon a bastion-class vessel and 2 or 3 are on a stronghold-class vessel. At least 2 brotherhoods, the Stirtok and the Thrum, are known to have joined the Tau Empire. Although the demiurge normally live in erroneous
Enormous.
and
Erroneous.
erroneous
Ooh.
space-bound starships, they are known to colonize worlds usually abundant in minerals, such as worlds of the Praetora system.
Beretta.
No. That's not even a thing. You made that up.
What are you doing reading, Mark?
That was our first
clearly.
mistake.
The fans like it. They like to think that they're intelligent. They've actually done something with their life. If someone like me can become,
A famous podcast
a
host.
famous podcaster, they can too.
It gives them hope.
Exactly. They maintain trusted ally status with the Tau Empire. They're indifferent to the Eldar, who generally see them both themselves beneath them. They are the natural enemies of chaos and have a special resistance toward the influences of the warp. I'm pretty sure we added that in.
I'm not sure, honestly, because I remember literally copying and pasting pieces of Lexicanum and then writing our own. So it's all kind of
I'm
mixed.
pretty sure
I
that's
don't know.
more or less. But
It's possible.
they're mortal enemies of the Scourge who are often compete with the Demiurge for resources. And the Korganian.
Corrigan.
I should just, every time we get to one of these words,
Just
I'll
stop
pause
and wait, and
yes,
then one of us will fill in.
who are often instigate large underground worlds. So the Scourge will come up again. The Demiurge worship the single god Val, the Smith of Odd.
Smith God. That one was my bad.
That
I'll
one.
admit.
Evidence points towards this being the same Val as the Eldar pantheon, and the Demiurge often refer to them as the children of Val.
Is that you or is that?
That is me.
Okay.
Many of the religious practices seem to venerate Val, and although other god-like entities are acknowledged in Demiurge mythology, including other beings that resemble the rest of the Eldar pantheon, even the gods of the warp, only Val is venerated. This could possibly point to a common heritage or ancestry between the Demiurge and the Eldar, as well as a potential link between the Old Ones and what they have been, the
What
Eldar
may
gods.
have been the Elder Gods.
Don't you start with me. Demiurge have a strong cultural respect for elders who are often lead the Demiurge as chiefs and in war councils. So yeah, there's a couple things that we added. The whole Eldar thing and their religious beliefs, I believe we added that in there. But
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's actually not a lot
no.
written about the Demiurge. A lot of it really just revolves around their mining and technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even like they don't have tabletop models.
Yeah.
What they did have is in Battlefleet Gothic they had the ships, but they didn't really have like a
Yeah, they
tabletop
had those
representation.
stronghold bastions or whatever. So the models that we used were from Mantic Games, and they are from the Forge Fathers range. which are space dwarves. They're space
Essentially based on.
But like they actually have a pretty big range. But what we use specifically was Iron Ancestors and Forge Guard. So the Iron Ancestor is basically like almost like a mini dreadnought.
They really do have that
like in appearance
esque look.
Yeah, in appearance, but not in
function.
Yeah, like
Yeah, it really looks like it's a super blocky, squat, fully armored unit.
Yeah. And then the Forge Guard, they're just like super heavily armored,
Yeah.
short models with hammers.
Yeah, they're fully enclosed too with like their power armor.
Yeah.
So like you can't see anything.
That totally fits in like the flavor of it because they're miners. So
Yeah.
sure, they're using their big ships to like break apart asteroids, but then they're going in like in space
Yeah.
to like go extract these
Yeah,
ores. And
their
stuff,
suits of
so-
war are the same suits that they wear mining.
Right,
Like,
exactly. It's function for them.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
So the rules for them, we are using Space Marine Cataphracti Terminators because like they're these like squat dwarves with like this super durable armor. So that gives them that whole 2+ armor save and like 4+ in Von, as well as their movement is slowed. So like those things can only move like 4 inches. So that fits into that short, heavily armored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tank.
And then they for weapons they have like the Storm Bolter, or I guess actually for Cataphracti it's not a Storm Bolter, it's a Combi Bolter.
Yeah.
And also they have Lightning Claws. So like rules wise, but not models. The models have a power hammer.
Oh, okay.
But the reason why we did this is because you can't give, or it's so costly to give everyone in the unit a Thunder Hammer. But with the Lightning Claw, you get a reroll, so it's like it's more powerful than just like
A regular fist.
yeah, because you get
With
that
nothing in
reroll,
it.
but it's not like a big crazy 2-handed Thunder Hammer type thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, yeah, especially with these guys, very small model counts for 500.
yeah, and
points.
500 point. There's 10 Terminators and one. So we're talking about the Iron Ancestor, which is that dreadnought thing. So the rule for him will be what are those things called? What are the cat?
Oh, the
Those-
like elite dreadnoughts.
No, not the elite dreadnoughts. They're a Space Marine in a Space Marine suit.
Oh, Centurions.
Centurions, yeah.
Yeah.
We use them.
A Space Marine and a Space Marine.
Yeah,
I like that you knew exactly what he was talking about.
Centurions. So yeah, because it's not that much bigger. It's smaller than a dreadnought, the model, but yeah. So
But it's pretty heavily armored.
But it's heavily armored,
And it is bigger
got
than
gun
like
arms.
a Terminator, like a Space Marine Terminator.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it fits good in scale as well as in rules, and then it's just equipped with weapons.
Yeah, it's got a gun arm and it's got like a thunder hammer arm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'll talk a little bit about the influences for that one again. A lot of it was copy pasted from Lexicanum, but then we added our own like influences. There's obviously gonna be heavy Norse influences. That's kind of comes with the Mantic dwarven feel with them.
Yeah.
The Pantheon stuff I kind of drew from Tolkien.
Yeah, the whole there might be relations between the
Yeah.
Eldar and the Demiurge.
So with the Eldar and Demiurge, so this also kind of ties into their look. So one thing that always kind of bugged me is how human-like Eldar looked for being an alien race. Like I'm a huge
There is
fan.
a reason for it, but
Yeah, exactly. But
if you
that-
don't know that reason, it's retarded.
Exactly. So that's why I wanted to tie them in because they will have more of a humanoid look.
Yeah.
Obviously, they won't
Yeah,
look.
2 eyes, 2 ears, and
Yeah,
nose and
exactly.
mouth.
And the other thing too is we wanted to fully enclose them in power armor because we didn't want them necessarily to look like your classic. There are space dwarf models out there.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we didn't want him to be running around with power armor and a beard.
Yeah,
you
Space
know.
Wolves.
Well, yeah. The other thing too is squats and demiurge. So, especially with Necromunda coming like out again with this actual squat model.
Grendelson.
Yeah. So those were the original space dwarfs. So it's like, okay, how can you have like a Xenos space dwarf and an abhuman space dwarf? So the demiurge actually don't look like dwarves. There's a picture out there.
I believe it's fat. Oh no, there actually is a
Yeah,
by
I
Jess
think
Godwin
it's
or whatever.
yeah.
And his skin actually looks like it's made of rock.
Yeah. Do you know what's
almost.
that character in Thor Ragnarok?
Korg.
Korg, yeah.
Yeah, it almost
it's almost
looks
like
that.
Korgish.
And then there's tons of fan art where they take it a step further.
Yeah, and make them like rock people.
Yeah.
So like I didn't want to take it that far.
But honestly,
you don't have to.
okay.
We don't have to even talk about it though, because they're
Yeah,
all encased in
they're-
power armor.
Yeah. So who knows what they look
So,
like underneath.
but that my point is that you can both have squats and demiurge exist in the lore being space dwarves, but they're actually completely separate, completely different.
Well, a squat is very specifically human.
An abhuman, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, but he's definitely comes from us, whereas the demiurge is
Yeah.
a completely separate.
Yeah.
entity.
Yeah, of course, because there's
and
lots
just-
of bipedal races out there, or like humanoid.
I know, but
ones out there.
like with the lore within 40k, again, like the whole thing, like the old ones made a lot of the races. So
Right.
if you have a common origin, it makes
Then what's the
sense that you
problem of-
look similar, right?
This one guy, this one old one, just liked this ideal, so he
Yeah,
created it.
and that's
Yeah.
why, and yeah, that's kind of why they all kind of
yeah. I think if
tie
people get
together.
hung up on that, they have weirder issues.
Well, I was hung up on it for a while.
Well, you have weird issues.
But yeah, that's pretty much all.
Yeah, like I said, we added a little bit of our own touch, but a lot of it was already existing.
Yeah,
Like, we
yeah.
just took what existed and built on top of it.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
not much more to say about that.
All right, next. Now, is it the Coronis or the Coronus?
That's a good question. How do you want to say it?
I would have done Coronis.
All right, that's official canon now.
Cronus.
All right. But I want to say Kronos. That's what I really want to say. So, very little is known about the enigmatic Coronis. Current Imperial reports are sporadic, and all that is known is an amalgamation of bits of information gathered by the Inquisition over thousands of years. Some reports are as ancient as the Age of Strife. The Coronos have been observed throughout the Imperium in only brief flashes and disappear without a trace. Reports have indicated strong warp energy in areas where Coronos have been seen operating. The current working theory is that they live in the warp and emerge sporadically throughout time and space, appearing and disappearing across the Imperium on various war zones and worlds across the
here we go.
galaxy.
Okay.
I feel like I'm Deckard Cain.
Yeah, no, I know.
The Inquisition believes
That's full.
that they come
Never
from a
go full
distant
Deckard
future and have returned to alter the course of whatever nightmare future that the universe has in wait. A preposterous notion, as I've clearly... No, that's not included. Okay. But, so the Inquisition believes that they come from a distant future and have returned to alter the course of whatever nightmare future that the universe has in wait. Really cool. One notable feature of the Coronis is that they are not in league with the powers of chaos, despite their close ties to the warp, and are often seen fighting against the servants of chaos as much as the forces of the Imperium. This does not, however, redeem them in the eyes of the Inquisition as bearing the taint of the warp, along with the sin of being a Xenos. They often appear and attack without warning or explanation, and have equally appeared to fight alongside or in support of other Xenos or even the Imperium. It has been observed that the Coronis do intend to more frequently carry more amicable relations with members of the Eldar race. Some suspect it is due to the Eldar's ability to interpret the future. Even so, the Coronis have been witnessed violently engaging with Eldar as well. There are even rare accounts of different Coronis factions fighting each other. They are characterized by very advanced technology and the ability to traverse large distances through teleportation. This also gives them an edge on the battlefield, seemingly appearing out of nowhere and vanishing without a trace. Ultimately, there is not much known why the Coronis fight, and what compels them to pursue their distant objectives, or what direction they wish to guide fate.
So that's like the official Imperial record that they would have on them.
So again,
then-
but this is completely your guys'.
Yeah, we
Yes.
we
Okay.
completely invented
Cool.
this.
Yes.
So this is like as with all things, it's written from the perspective of the
Yeah.
Imperium, and this is what the Imperium knows about it.
Yeah.
I like that. So most of the time, the Imperium would, like if there was a race out there that actually manipulated time, like the Coronis do, I think the Imperium would actually have a hard time reconciling that because they
Why?
can't do it.
I don't know if they would. There's tons of time travel events in the Imperium. They even have the Ordo Cronus, or for the Inquisition. Like they have a whole branch that studies like time travel.
Do they time travel?
Well, they disappeared and no one knows what happened to them.
Right, but so
the
does
main
anyone who
assumption
enters
is
the
that-
warp, right?
Well, they don't know how they time
Like,
travel.
but there are events where like people have gone back in time.
Yeah.
Imperial citizens have gone back in time or into the future.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
happened.
Not
even in the
okay.
Horse Heresy.
Yeah. So
Some
But-
of the perpetuals like travel through time and space.
Yeah. So I think I came up with this idea more so than you, Christian. And then you definitely added on more of the descriptions to it. But like when I originally thought of this race, I wanted them to be like very grim dark in that they're an unknown race. They could be human, they could be Tau, they could be anything
Yeah, I was
from
going
the
to say
future.
there's no description of them.
Yeah, they could be literally anything from the future. And what they do is they send these robots or like energy crystals, or I forget exactly how we describe them, but like it depends on what models we finally decide on. But either they'd be like almost energy beings, or they'll be robots that they send back in time to fight like very specific battles that then change the course of the future. But as with all time travel, it never works. So then they send another one back.
Yeah.
And they're trying to fix this one mistake that they made many years ago. But when they do that,
They constantly have to keep course correcting.
exactly, they pull on another string.
As
so now
soon as
they
you mess
appear
with
here.
time once.
Yeah, it just keeps
And
collapsing on
it's
itself.
just that eternal, like, they're never going to be able to fix what they messed
So
up.
if I'm understanding this correctly,
Yeah.
the person that I would see that
Yeah.
with like the Coronis symbol on it is not the Coronis. It's
No.
just their agent
Yeah. But you wouldn't
or
know
their
that,
tool,
but-
of course.
Yeah.
Of course. So technically, we would never even see the race at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Because
then-
they're whatever time travel they're doing, either they're limited or they think it's too dangerous. So
Exactly.
they send these things instead.
And sorry, go. Okay, the other cool thing too about them is that like they're also trying to fix other people's mistakes. So and we can't know what it is that they're fixing. They could have like, if they're thousands of years in the future, like maybe the Tyranids did consume the galaxy and they're trying to stop that from happening, or maybe the Orcs took over the galaxy. Whatever it is.
But as soon
that's
as
out
they
there,
end up fixing it,
something else screws up completely and they have to go back and fix
Yeah.
it again. And sometimes they could even fight each other from the past. So
Right.
that's the other
Well,
thing where they
you
can fight
send one
themselves.
group to fix something, they fix it, only to realize it was a way worse thing. So you
Exactly.
send a group back to
To
stop
stop
them
yourself from
right.
doing the
and you
thing.
can send the same unit twice.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and it's just this like never-ending grim dark battle. Like
So
that,
it's
there is
very
only war.
despairing
Yeah.
for them even because even they
No
must
matter what they
feel
do.
we can't like this is always a losing battle for them.
Yeah.
And the one other thing that is we didn't write down is they have like every time they die, they disappear. Like so you can never study their bodies because anytime like yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing there.
What if
Yeah.
you were to keep one alive?
Maybe.
They have the ability to just disappear. Like
Yeah,
it's just
they'll step back into time and space and
and then like, oh well, what if I destroyed that? Like it's easy enough to just say that the people on the other end of the time gate.
Yeah,
are in
they just
control.
recall it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In my mind, it's almost like the Protoss when they die and their spirit, the Zealots, their spirit disappears. Almost kind of like that, right? Like they get teleported away, whisked away,
Yeah.
and then either come back to refix whatever it is that they screwed up, or never come back. 'Cause,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where do you get the
But
models
it's
from?
the sorry, one more thing before we do models.
All right.
It's the ultimate troll race too, because it's even more trolly than orcs, where it's like, well, we fight and even if we lose, we have a good time. But these guys are like, well, we fight and even if we lose, we accomplished our objective.
Because you don't know what it is that they're
Like,
doing.
exactly.
Right,
Like
exactly.
we wanted you to win because now you're more brave, and now you go to
Yeah.
this and you fix. It's like the ultimate troll race too.
The other quick thing too is, and obviously the relationship with Eldars because of the ability to tug on time and see the future,
Yeah.
whereas they're operating in the future. Doesn't stop them from fighting them at times if it, is their objective, but
If anything, I would think that they would.
conflict more.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
like the Eldars always trying to bend fate to their
Yeah,
will.
but then they're not able to like pick up on the time travels themselves. They
Exactly.
mess up their whole scheme.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
if anything, I think we should almost change that to be like they have.
They're antagonistic. Yeah.
But almost unknowingly.
Yeah, well, I would say one-sided. Like the
Yeah.
Eldar are specifically hostile towards them because
They always
messing
appear
with
and mess
everything.
with what
But-
they're trying to
But
do.
the Chronosis,
Don't care. They're just trying to fix whatever it is that they're trying
exactly.
to fix.
So
Some terrible catastrophe.
Yeah,
that
there's almost like a
befell.
Sisyphus kind of like thing
Yeah,
to it, where
exactly.
it's like this eternal
You'll
struggle.
never win.
No.
yeah. So rules for them, they're gonna be from the Necron Codex, and one of the main reasons we wanted this, we wanted them to have some type of like army-wide, like the reanimation protocol, army-wide save, where it's basically like in their lore will be a rule where they seen like, oh, the bullet hit them, but they went back in time for a second and they reappeared, and now the bullet missed them.
Right.
Like, yeah. So, and we also wanted them to be more on the points heavy side of things. We didn't want this to be like a horde army. We wanted it to be like elite, like advanced technology. So that's kind of why we chose the Necron.
And it would make sense to me because especially when you're talking time travel, you're probably talking enormous amounts of energy. Like, are you able to expend that much to send hundreds of people back, or do you send really quality people
Like
back?
elite
Exactly.
units. Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah.
the specific rules that we're using are Necron Triarchs and Triarch Stalkers. And the reason for this is, once again, because they're
Those kinda
super elite, and they have like fast moving units. Like they have like their own, like, we almost pictured it as like, instead of jump packs, it's like time jumps.
Yeah.
Where
So they like,
literally,
they're like skipping across the battlefield. But
if you've ever played the game Space Marine, is on PS3 or Xbox, is it just called Space Marine?
yeah.
Yeah.
When you're fighting bloodletters and like you're aiming at them, they're like pew, 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 and they like zip around, like,
Yeah.
and they like,
Warp in and out.
yeah, like I pictured that's how they move, like just warping in and out.
Yeah, and very like weird
Yeah.
movements
Oh,
that are
it's
then
like
like a
Nightcrawler.
trail. Yeah, almost. Yeah, exactly. Like I pictured them like that. Yeah.
I'm about okay.
So the only thing we haven't fully decided on, I think, is the models. Christian has a view of them, and I have a different view of them.
Yeah.
You want to go on your view?
Yeah,
Maybe
so-
we'll put a poll up and see if people like.
what people like.
I say this, I won't do it, but maybe people will talk to me about it.
Maybe
I don't know.
Yeah.
I get into some conversations.
your real fans will.
yeah.
Hey, I have a following too. I have one fan out there. So regardless of which ones we end up actually deciding on, we're all going to be using Mantic Games models for these ones.
Yeah.
And it's from their Dreadball range, actually. So they're not actually even combat units. They're from space sports. So my pick, the way I pictured them is that they are a Xenos race, and they're very like frail and physically weak. So they have a race called the Fran-Tar Philosophers, and they wear like these big heavy robes. They look very skinny and small, and they're very like weak. And what they actually do, in my mind, is that they're projecting psychically themselves through the warp into time and acting.
So it's not constructs. They're
No.
sending like astral projections
of themselves back in time to accomplish whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. And they're,
It's like playing a video game.
yeah, almost.
Like you enter the VR.
Except with your soul. And if
Right.
you lose, you die.
No, you just get sent back.
Yeah. And then the astral protected versions of themselves are the Glambic ghosts from the same Dreadball range. And they look almost like spiritual projections. They look like ghosts. They're really cool. They're like made of energy, almost like the Necron, the Catan that are being held in stasis.
Transcendence.
Yeah, where they have that like all that rippling energy. They're like that, but they're clear. They're really cool
Okay,
looking
cool.
models. So
Sounds
that's
like I
kind of
should
how
use one for a stand-in.
They're
Mark?
they're
small.
small. They're human sized.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty tiny.
yeah. But that's kind of my
yeah, you
interpretation.
picture
of
them more as like the actual race is sending some type of like, maybe not psychic, but some type
a projection
of
back in
themself,
time. Yeah,
of energy.
It's like a previous time of themselves, like a previous version.
yeah, and
sort of.
yeah, no, yeah,
No.
no. The only reason why I don't like it is I'm just not sold on the models. Like they just don't quite.
Do it for you.
They just don't quite do it for me.
Yeah,
But,
that's fair.
yeah.
Well,
so
you've said you've had trouble getting it up anyways.
yeah, I haven't had it up in 7 years.
It's tough out there for just a Warhammer guy.
But they're cool. Like, I like the lore of it. I'm just not. Maybe I need to see one of the models actually painted up, and then, or just holding the model.
Yeah.
And then it would do it for me. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, but what's your version of it?
So mine would be from Mantic Games, like we said, from their Warpath, Astarians faction.
Asterians.
Yeah, and they have more of like the robotic look. They have a bunch of different models. They have some that are like unarmored, and we wouldn't be using them. We would be using more of like
the unarmored
robotic-
version of themselves look a lot like Eldar, but they
Yeah.
have these like robotic minions that they use.
Yeah, so we would use them, but like they're very sleek looking, but like mechanical. Like yeah,
They almost have a Mass Effect. What do you call the race that's trying to kill everything? The Single Eyes.
I don't remember.
But you know, like it's
The Reapers.
Yeah, the Reapers. They almost have a Reaper feel to them. They're not quite there, but they have that kind of almost robotic look to them.
Really? I kind of see Tau.
What?
maybe a little bit with like the sleek, elegant, but like
The
tower
ears,
more like
they make me
skinny,
think of the
like,
drones.
the tower more like bulky, and like the battle seats are like bulky. Where these are like sleek, like Eldar, like Wraithguard.
Yeah, no, I can see both comparisons.
Yeah. So either way, that the lore won't really change that much, but yeah.
So for influences for this race, for my version of it, I obviously drew a lot from like Shaolin monks and Buddhist temples, especially with the guys with like the robes and things, and like they live kind of isolated, and then they send these astral projections of themselves out to do whatever they need to get done. Other influences, obviously, anything with time travel. What's that? Edge of Tomorrow? I think that's
such a good movie.
I think that movie actually came out after we did this, so I don't think we necessarily drew inspiration from it, but it's kind of cool. Like it's out there. It's a thing now.
On the terms of drawing inspiration,
Or did we travel
I
back in
use
time? And
my
then
imagination for my inspiration, or
Okay.
my subconscious.
Mark,
which is fueled by
by-
all the movies you've ever seen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and books I've read.
right,
the
all
other
of them.
All of them.
the other small kind of influences are like the Watchers from Marvel Comics, those little blue alien guys that are like super ancient. They kind of observe
Aren't
the
they?
universe.
Don't they determine the ring for?
Yeah,
the,
they determine like the Green Lantern Corps
Right.
rings and the other Lantern Corps. But yeah, it's kind of like they're kind of observing the galaxy and trying to like shape it, at least in our case, towards like the goal of the future that they want to see. We did have like a precedent for time travel in 40K with the Inquisition's Order Chronos, which it'd be cool if you did like a side game where they're like fighting each other. You know,
For all we know, though,
it could
this
be them.
is the Ordo Chronos.
Maybe
Just
they've
trying
come
to
back to
fix
fix
something.
something.
Yeah, because they went forward and they were lost.
yeah.
Like,
or like so far in the future, they're like, oh man, like we did something terrible.
yeah.
We need to fix this and go back. So there's a lot of like
I like that cool flavor you can pull out of it.
The mystery of it.
And
Like,
I almost
on our-
want to leave the mystery there, and like
Oh,
we all have
absolutely.
our own interpretation, because that's what makes them cool.
Yeah.
Is that we don't know why they keep coming back, what it is they're trying to fix, and even who they are really.
On our last episode, the Harlequin episode with Peter, that's one of the things that draws Peter to the Harlequins is that there's so much untapped knowledge there that you can fill in.
Yeah, and you don't want to just come out and say like, no, this is the way things are.
Yeah,
Screw you.
exactly. So I think that's pretty much all on them. Like, obviously, there's some Terminator, like the movie Terminator.
Yeah, going back in
references, like,
time,
sure.
and stuff like that with the robots.
Yeah, but next one, Jordan, you want to read one?
Sure. The Sahalan.
Yes.
The Sahalan are reptilian species who had reached their zenith between the fall of the Eldar and the time of the Great Crusade. They are a physically gifted race. They worship the Old Ones as gods and see themselves as their chosen race, and as such are meant to be the inheritors of the universe. Their faith is expressed through radical devotion and uncompromising force to bring other races to compliance with their beliefs. Though they have been known to convert followers to subservient roles within their religious hierarchy, they are unwilling to tolerate the survival of humanity as a grudge from the days of the Great Crusade. Their weapons and technology including spacecraft, are very advanced and appear to be reverse engineered from Old One technology. They appear to have a propensity towards stable plasma and energy technology, as well as energy shielding. Legend holds that the Sahalan had helped humanity in their struggle against the Men of Iron before the Age of Strife. They had soon lost contact with humanity during the Age of Strife, and when humanity had re-emerged, they had engaged in the genocidal campaign. Offended that their assistance had been forgotten, and vowed to exterminate humanity for their betrayal. Thousands of years later, during the Great Crusade, the Sahalan Empire was destroyed. The warrior of the Sahalan, Sahalan.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Now you're getting it.
I don't know if you should take linguistic lessons from Mark.
For Mark.
The warrior of the Sahalan, despite their advanced technology, the small, slender race of lizards were no match for the forces of the Imperium. It was during the breaking of the Empire that the Sahalan were forced to go into hiding in deep underground vaults, relics of the Old Ones, on their home worlds. During this time, they discovered within the Grand Vault the knowledge and technology to manipulate and enhance their genome. Through these methods, they began to produce fierce, large warriors, superior than their unmodified kin in every way. These changes created a split between the remnants of the Empire. Half of the survivors rejected the old ways and the worship of the old gods and adopted a new religion, worshipping the great feathered prophet, Zincht. They would start mystic cults favoring their new god, being promised their next stage of evolution as avian creatures and masters of their psychic potential. These cults are heretical to the followers of the old ones, the old gods, and are stamped out where they are found. The followers of the old gods suspect and equally despise the taint of chaos within these cults. The Sahalan psychic potential has also opened them to manipulation by Khorne and clans of raving berserkers, who are persecuted with equal fervor. Within the worship of the old gods, there exists a small conclave of unmodified Sahalan, who rule as a theocratic voice and the will of the gods, with their modified kin as a warrior caste, used to subjugate the general population of genetically unmodified Sahalan as pseudo-willing slaves. These power structures often lead some to defect to the cult in a quest to achieve their full evolutionary potential, as promised by the cult leaders through the power of the warp. They have been known to cooperate with the Eldar at times, as they have respect for the old ones, if not religious devotion. This is acceptable to the Sahalan for the purposes of pursuing mutual interests from time to time. They also have particular enmity towards the Tau, who they see as would-be conquerors and enslavers as the Imperium of man before them. Few less religious lone operators or mercenary groups have been employed by various factions in the galaxy from time to time. Because of their psychic aptitude, the Sahalan have also been vulnerable to the predations of chaos and have resulted in the fall of many of the lure of Khorne, Slaanesh, and Nurgle.
That one's a lot longer than the other ones.
That was pretty long, yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of religious undertones there. Lots of inspiration was taken.
Well, we'll get there in a second. Let's talk about their models first, and then I'll get.
Do you remember there was what was that minor Xenos that was also a lizard-like? And they had like
Torellian dog lizards.
no, they had like guns.
Dog
on,
soldiers.
they're almost more like salamanders.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
they have
they
the
had the
gun
gun on,
and they
yeah,
walk.
yeah.
Oh, Quetzals.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm surprised you remembered that, but yeah.
I remember them because they have a weird name, and they make me think of like the Amazon, not an Amazon,
Mexican. That's
Aztec.
Yeah.
Like they have a very.
I'm almost
Aztec.
curious with this. So they at one time were allied with the Imperium of Man.
So during the Age of Strife, when they had the Men of
The
Iron,
Dark Age.
like those AIs that basically almost wiped out all life in the galaxy, all the races basically banded together to fight them off.
And
so
even if you didn't technically band with them, you were working.
You had a
towards
mutual
common
enemy.
goal.
yeah,
Right.
it was more of a peace treaty between everyone except for
a temporary ceasefire.
And this was before even the Emperor, so this is before like.
So are these like
This is-
reptilians
Yeah. So
in the sense of like Hillary?
no, not that kind
I
of
knew that's where you were
style.
gonna go with that. No.
I'm just lizard people.
Lizard people.
Well,
Alex Jones.
the frogs. The turning the frogs gay, Jordan. No. The model range are Games Workshop's Lizardmen and Skinks.
Yeah, so in their lore,
Yeah.
there was like
Yeah,
the
I've
two
seen
classes
Lizardmen.
that
Yeah, there's the genetically modified and then the unmodified versions of the race.
yeah, so the unmodified is obviously the
The Skinks, and then they've manipulated their own genome, and then they've made like the way I picture it is almost like they're the equivalent of Space Marines in their race. Like,
Yeah.
they've gone in, messed with their genetics. They've made a superior version of themselves
Yeah.
to create this warrior caste.
but that cast actually ends up taking over.
Yeah, and
Unlike the Space Marines.
yeah,
but-
exactly. The Space Marines more serve humanity and are like have that mutual interest and respect, whereas this warrior caste is like, well, we're better than you. We're just gonna take
Of
over.
course, why would we bother listening to you?
Yeah,
When
absolutely.
we're better in every way,
Yeah. So for
which some say the Space Marines should have done in the beginning. But hey, who am I?
And they all turned to chaos, Eric, and we're exterminated by the good guys.
Half.
Not appropriate on the mic.
oh, sorry. Eric made me sick, so I vomited a little on the mic. His blasphemous.
Do you want to talk about the rules? I was
Yeah,
a little
so-
bit dodgy on this.
No,
one.
so I know. So when we made stuff, we wanted stuff to be I said this before. We wanted them to be comparable to Space Marines, but not necessarily better than them, but kind of on that same tier. So, like we have the higher up class. Do we ever have a name for them? Like the
I
genetically
never
modified.
named them anything
Yeah.
different.
So we have the genetically modified class, which we're gonna count as orc knobs, because they're big, they're strong, they're genetically modified. They got like 2 wounds, 2 attacks. You know, like
They're tough.
they're tough. They would be a match for a space marine.
Yeah.
The other thing we would be using is grots. So,
Which
those
would
are
represent the
just the
skinks.
regular-
yeah, exactly. So
What kind of ratio are you looking for?
a lot, like a big ratio. I'm talking like 5 to 1
5.
grots,
Yeah.
5 small ones to the big ones.
So is in this scenario, and this is definitely the more feel I get because these guys really do view themselves as better. So I
Yeah.
know you said like pseudo willing slaves.
Yeah.
I don't get that feel. What the feel I get is like you are like if you're coexisting, it's because like you truly want to be that. You want to be the lizard man. You don't want to stay a skink. And in order to become the lizard man, like you are you are a slave and you're treated as like a second class citizen. Right? Because you said there's 2 different factions for the culture. Right? There's those who still worship like the old ways.
Which is the vast majority of them.
Yeah.
And then there's those who have given themselves up to chaos.
Yeah.
And those you'd have much more of those ones who have changed in that cult, right?
No. Like they're genetically manipulating themselves, like using science.
Not through change.
No, that's a sub faction. That's like that. That was just a reason for them to fight themselves. Is what I was getting at with that. But the dominant culture,
okay,
the majority culture.
So are the knobs like the leaders?
Yeah. They've enslaved.
I guess you
the
walked
race.
out and grabbed the pop when
Yeah,
Gordon
when we
was
were
reading
talking
some of
about it,
But yeah, I'll get.
If you were here,
Don't worry,
Eric,
I had read it all before.
Yeah.
you studied it intimately.
But yeah, no, like the bigger ones are definitely the lords, and like they're definitely pushing around the little ones, and like there's nothing the little ones can do. Like
Yeah, but in some ways, like there's the physical manipulation, but that's where it's like pseudo willingness, because if they can also like religiously manipulate them and be
that's
like,
the other thing.
Yeah.
Because if you picked up, they're very religious.
yeah, exactly. So that's the driver for the little ones. Like, oh yeah, like this is the gods have ordered them to enslave us, so we're willing slaves, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, and it is definitely an old one type of religion.
Yeah, so they definitely worship the old ones, and they worship that kind of technology and things like that. And they see themselves as like the inheritors of the galaxy. They're the extended race of the old ones.
I don't know how official the old one artwork is that I'm looking at.
Yeah,
It was like a
so-
lizard man way back in the day.
It was.
They've been described as like lizard creatures.
They're not okay. So here's the thing with that. So they're described as having a cold-blooded intelligence.
No,
what
they
that
are physically
means.
described as being lizards.
There's a
Are
couple
they?
different
Yes.
sources.
Yeah,
that
and I know
all
there was that old
contradict each other,
artwork that
yeah.
showed them as like a
And the-
slan mage priest, and
Yeah.
even in
Yes.
Warhammer, like fantasy, there was always that like, well, they could
Well,
space travel and stuff.
If you
which
look
they
at
did.
old ones on Lexicanum, like the disambiguation is sea slan.
yeah.
So, and again, like, where would we be getting this now? Like, what is the actual source of this?
Yeah, and how old is the source is the other key too, because
Yeah, because
if
it
it's
could
Rogue
no longer
Trader Day,
be.
you basically just
It's
write
not
it off.
canon anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like even though they don't.
But we still wanted to make a callback to that
Yeah,
time and
but-
that stuff. But and that's why some of our lore is kind of dodgy too. Like on purpose, it's like
Do you
this
know,
is an
do
older
you not
religion.
know?
Exactly.
But the reason why they are super religious, and because like they almost view themselves, in my mind, anyways, as like direct descendants as the old ones.
Yeah,
Like,
well, that's exactly it. And that's why they feel
And-
like they're lords over the galaxy.
yeah,
because
and like
they're
even more
entitled.
so than like the Eldar. Like it's not even like that they were created by.
Yeah, it's like we are the old ones incarnate.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a divine right of kings.
Exactly.
Well, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're entitled to the.
Even though
owning the
really
galaxy.
in reality they're not nothing.
Yeah, they might
On the grand
they-
scale,
They
like-
might be nothing.
Yeah, and
but-
Oh,
like,
I
and they're
guess.
nothing compared to what the old ones were. Like, they
Yeah.
don't have that level of technology, or even like we don't know what their physical prowess was, but
Yeah.
they're still. That's how they see themselves,
Yeah.
right? So obviously, the influences that come from them, a lot of their advanced technology and religious zeal, from other sci-fi is like the Protoss. I picture them using like energy weapons and like having golden armor, kind of stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
like
wanna
it's
go
on the
back to
models.
I want to go back
okay.
to the models because we never we said
Okay,
yeah
go.
we're using lizardmen and skinks.
Yeah.
But like
Get into
obviously
it.
we're gonna do heavy kit bashing with them. And one of the things that we're gonna do on the big guys is we're gonna give them all. We found these like think almost like powered Wolverine claws,
Lightning claws.
essentially.
yeah, but they have like an
and,
energy blade more than like
and
a
it's not
metal
like a
blade.
giant fist. It's more like almost like
It comes from the wrist.
It's like a lightsaber.
no.
No.
How many more comparisons can I make that you?
None,
guys don't agree with?
hopefully.
Yeah, just stop it.
It's like the Knights of Ren.
Oh my God! Flip the table, somebody. Yeah, but like it's not so much like lightning claws, like where it's like this big bulky encasement.
Yeah.
It's almost like
it's slender and sleek and just
Yeah.
comes from the wrist.
It's lightning claw that's been touched by Jokero
y-
technology.
oh my God, yeah,
Miniaturized.
You're right.
Thanks, guys.
ding ding, you got one.
So yeah, the knobs are going to be equipped with like this like super like close combat like power claws essentially.
Are the lizardmen what we saw at GrotzCon?
Yes.
Oh, those were so well painted.
They were very good.
We have a picture of those actually in the album I added.
Yeah.
Like it's so well done.
Didn't do it justice, but
It
it's
really
a good picture.
didn't.
But like
Yeah.
yeah.
We
it's
spent a good amount of time staring
Yeah.
at those models.
So and then alternative, also like what Christian said, he pictures them like wearing like gold armor.
Yeah.
So we'll just find some like
Armor plates.
Exactly.
Yeah, like they look kind of sci-fi-ish and
give
stick
them
on
some shoulder plates and maybe
Yeah.
a
Well, yeah, they won't be so naked. Is
Yeah.
kind of thing we're trying to get away from.
Yeah, the
But-
other thing the models have is they have like that crest, and a lot of them are armored, so we'll carry that
Yeah.
in gold and
Yeah, exactly. And they do have like little armor decorations on the spikes on their back and things like that.
Yeah.
So like it's there. We just got to add to it.
yeah. And then as for like the little guys, like I'm not totally sure how we're gonna convert them. We need to find like some type of
guns.
little
Yeah.
tiny gun that they can all kind of have, which it's not gonna be hard. It's just a matter of actually finding
Yeah,
it.
there's
And
lots of
finding what
third-party
you think
suppliers.
feels right with it.
Exactly for like tech and what the gun looks like. Obviously,
Yeah.
you're not going
You're not
to
gonna
give
give them
little
bolt
bolt guns
pistols.
on them. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
So, but the model is pretty well there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's gonna be cool. Like, we never really said this at the very beginning either. The one thing we wanted all of our shelf armies to be is different. Like, we wanted each one to play differently. Like, because a lot of armies, like, you can make two armies that essentially are the same, even if
from the
they're
same
in diff-
faction.
even
Yeah,
or even from different codex, you can still make them
play the
feel
same.
the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, play the same. So these ones differ from our regular orcs, where a regular orc army is just like the Green Tide. It's just like
A horde,
a
close
60
combat
yeah,
horde.
exactly.
Yeah.
Where this one is going to be filled with knobs and those
Grots.
grots.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
it's like a small, weak horde.
Are
Yeah.
you guys including HQs in these?
Some will, some won't.
Yeah, it
Is
depends
there
on
an HQ in
points.
this
You could if you
Yeah,
wanted
like if
to.
if we did,
Would you model it after a war boss?
I don't think it'd have war boss rules.
it might be
We'd
like a
have to
boss knob, but
look. Or maybe a mech.
Oh,
or
actually,
maybe a weird
yeah,
boy.
like
a weird boy
there's
would
a lot.
almost work.
Yeah,
Weird boy- oh,
psychic
but
But I
powers.
think
Psychic.
I think we're already using a Weird Boys rules for another Army's HQ.
Maybe. We'll look
we-
into
I was
it.
just
Yeah.
curious about
Yeah,
what
like-
what they would consider.
There's
as, like,
definitely
their
potential
leader.
there.
Like we're kind of doing them one army at a
Do-
time. We have our lore, and then we'll really get every bit. Like,
Do you feel that you've missed out on playing to their psychic potential because the orcs don't really have like that kind of psychic flavor in their combat? So like your lore, like your story behind them, I think is actually quite nice and like has good flavor. But do you feel like you've added all that potential power and ability onto the tabletop?
So the way I kind of see it is, not all of them are psychic. More like the leaders are psychic.
Or it's like humanity, like you have strong psychers, but all humans have a presence in the war.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean they're running around shooting fireballs out of their
Yeah,
hands.
and like the genetically modified class, which are the big warriors that we're using, the knobs rules, like they're not psychic. Like they don't have psychic powers.
Yeah.
Because they're genetically bred to be like these vicious
Physical
fighters,
warriors.
physical warriors.
Yeah.
And then the little guys, the grots, I keep bumping that.
I know.
The little guys, they're just cannon fodder essentially. Like they're these like zealous little like
Slaves, yeah.
you know, like they're not launching warp blasts and doing all that kind of stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So their leadership cast probably uses like lots of warp.
So would you say their
yes.
leadership cast is like the small guys or the big guys?
The big guys. Like they've taken over.
Oh, okay.
Like
So are they at this point? Are they almost trying to get rid of the small guys?
no, it's just
You use them. Like, why
Yeah.
wouldn't you if they're a willing labor force or unwilling?
Well, you could-
clearly
you-
Eric's never subjugated. No, it's unbelievable.
Like,
he
you
doesn't,
can-
he doesn't
he
get
doesn't
it.
get
You
it.
could turn them into the big guys.
No, well, there could be like limitations on genetic like modification and like maybe they're too old now,
Yeah,
or
it's just like the same reason why does humanity not make
turn everyone into
Starries?
space
Like,
marines. Yeah.
Well, they
they
could.
don't. Eric, enough of you. They can't.
But I'm not saying
Yeah.
like immediately. I'm saying like if you're to look ahead to 10 generations from now, wouldn't
Maybe-
they start
but
that?
But the warrior caste doesn't want to do that because then they would lose control.
Yeah, like they have no one to lord over.
Yeah.
So it is like that. They want to feel the power of
being in
having
charge.
of having the subjugated race. And
Yeah, because
so
like everything is like
it's not that they
religious,
actually
too.
care for like their race as a whole. They just it's
they-
like their personal
they-
gain.
They do. It's like so they're super religious and over like they're essentially 60 million years old. The religion is just like it's made it so that the bigger guys are seen as closer to
the gods.
And then trying to formulate my thoughts exactly.
Well, this is all brand new territory, so
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
wondering like how I would want to view them, or if I was to be one of them.
Okay, so
what would my
so-
viewpoints be?
So the bigger ones are closer to the gods. So the littler ones, like they're descendants of the gods, but it's like that next step. So in a sense that they worship them, but not necessarily. They see them as better, but not necessarily worship. But they do
sure,
kind of
yeah.
worship.
almost like you guys have a better life because you're closer to the gods.
Yeah.
So does that mean they aspire to be that?
Yeah,
But they
they
can't.
can't.
Like-
You can't just like go into your genetics and just I'm just gonna make myself bigger and
No, but
stronger
you
now.
could say like, oh, like my child 3 generations from now will be a part of that
But
because
they-
it's
but
all
they
through
they
it's all
don't.
through the manipulation.
But the warrior caste doesn't want.
They're
people
not
to
just
come-
gonna willy-nilly just start.
so
because
it's
it is-
the carrot that they're holding in front of.
I don't
that.
even know if it's a carrot. Like
yeah, it's just you exist as a lower.
So how do you become the small guy to the big guy?
You don't. It's not an evolutionary thing on an individual basis. It's like the big guys now exist, and they keep producing their own big guys.
Right, but
and the little guys.
You're saying
produce-
they had the technology to do it, so why wouldn't they continue to do
because
it?
it's like that whole religious thing. Like it's not only control. Like we're better. They also don't want people to be into that better rank with them.
Yeah.
But like they don't want.
But if
they don't want all these religious thing, all these guys that are closer. Like they are
So
hoarding power
what's
for
the
themselves.
hope? What's the reason for the small ones to be the slaves? Why?
Because
whereas
they're
pre-
subjugated. How do you not get this? They're subjugated and they worship the bigger
because
guys.
Part of what you're saying is that they're slaves, and part of what you're saying is that they're willing, and you can't have both.
yes, you
You
can.
can.
No,
There
if
are
you're,
societies.
if you are a
Jordan,
slave,
Jordan, educate
can have
Eric.
if you are a
both, Matt.
slave, you
Why
can't be
can't you have
willing.
No, you
a
always
slave
have
is
a
not
choice.
willing.
The best slaves are willing slaves because you don't have to worry about them
Ultimately, you
revolting.
are though. Yeah. Ultimately,
Oh, yes.
ultimately, slavery is a choice. You can always uprise.
Okay,
no,
Kanye-
no, no, no.
Kanye
No, no, no.
West.
Like you can fight back. You will get killed, but you always have that choice. Not saying that
I don't
like
see
that
That
the
might be true
choice.
in an ultimate.
like in
Might
an
be true
ultimate sense.
Yeah.
But
I do not see the reason for
Like if they one day chose to stop obeying,
Yeah. But they won't because of the religion.
but the religion didn't exist with these big things until recently.
No, the religion has been around for a
No,
while.
but the religion has, but nowhere in the original religion was it like, oh, half of you are deemed to be this all powerful and half of you are deemed to be low forever.
but the nice thing about religion is you can bend and twist it to
Whoever's
fit
the one who
every
is in
need.
charge.
They seem like such like careful people and so psychically attuned, like you can
It's
easily
not that
weed
they're-
out the lies from the truth.
No, now you're reading into things like
Well, that's what I'm
yourself.
trying to understand.
You're
the
projecting
race,
things.
and I don't.
Yeah.
I just don't get that. Like I'm missing something here.
There's a slave class and there's a warrior cat class that
rules over
it.
them.
And they all worship the Slan. But the warrior class is even closer to the Slan. So as like a sign of respect, the smaller class, while they're slaves,
They accept
still,
their role in life.
Yeah. Because like
They
it's like
discovered
everybody has
the knowledge and technology to manipulate and enhance their genome. Why don't they,
They-
continue to do
Okay,
this?
because then if
A
you
small
make
cadre of the best scientists discovered this and did it to a small group of them
So-
and elevated themselves and kept that knowledge to themselves. Like, just because one scientist discovers... Do you know how nuclear technology works, Eric? Is there a small cadre of scientists that know how it works? Yes.
Well,
Like, if I told you to
I
build a
understand
nuclear...
the theory.
If I told you to build a nuclear reactor right now, could you do it?
yes, YouTube is amazing.
No,
Honestly,
you probably could not.
I don't have access to the materials.
Okay, I'm sure someone
Or the
thinks very
knowledge.
highly of himself, but
Nuclear,
here's the
like,
point.
Fission and like It's not
Right, but the human race has
not difficult to understand.
Eric.
Yeah, but
the
a
human
very
create a
basic level.
device
that can
Do
actually.
you know how the was it the Fat Boy, the original nuclear bomb? It was a uranium bullet fired into a uranium plate, and that was their nuclear reaction. It was about finding the correct activated uranium that was super difficult that would create the explosion when the molecules started fusing. That was what was difficult.
So
The bomb in itself
anyways,
is very simple.
Are you
megatons of
admitting?
damage.
I think the government wants to talk with you, Eric.
No, but all I'm saying is, I think you picked a bad example because the theory is simple.
No, the human race has access to nuclear technology, but us as a group of individuals cannot build a nuclear reactor. I don't care what you say, Eric. You cannot build a nuclear reactor.
Don't tell me what I cannot do.
9 times out of 10 you can't. But that one time.
That one time, and everyone is screwed.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's just like.
I think it's
all,
fairly straightforward.
Yeah,
I think it's just an
honestly,
Eric
yeah.
thing right now.
I think so too. I don't know. Did you have a rough day at work, Eric, and now you're getting grumpy?
I mean, I always have a rough day at work.
Oh yeah.
Working is
Yeah.
a rough day.
Sitting at that office chair, fucking tough. Eh? Moving around piles of money digitally instead of physically, fucking tough. Rough.
even have
Like,
to
how many hours?
His
how many
fingertips
hours
are
did you work
calloused.
today?
Let me tell you something that happened this week.
Yeah, do share them.
So, a package came to the branch and it had my name on it, and I'm like,
Oh, sweet.
I must have
the
ordered.
uranium arrived, so now I can build my nuclear
reactor.
bomb in the bank. I
was
figured
like-
the safe will be the perfect spot to build it.
Right. detonate
It's lined with lead. What could possibly go wrong? No, I was like, oh, it's odd. Like, I don't remember ordering anything. And I crack open this box, and what is in it? Bubble wrap.
Perfect.
It's a box of bubble wrap.
It literally had bubble wrap in it. I'm staring at it. One of the other managers comes by, and she's like, oh, like, did you order something? And I was like, apparently. And she, like, looks at the invoice. She looks at the box. She's like, what kind of moron are you right now, Eric? And I was like, I don't know. That thing sat in the back office for like 5 days before it finally clicked what it was for.
What was it?
I was trying to ship some piece of equipment out of the branch, and apparently I needed that to put it in, to ship it in.
Sounds like you're doing illegal activity. I'm just trying to ship some things out of the bank.
Through the mail.
And here Eric thinks he can build a nuclear.
Can't even understand the mail system.
Yeah, no, it was.
Oh, dear
it was
goodness.
just everyone was like, "Did you really order a box of bubble wrap, Eric?" It's like, yes, I did.
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
Glad to hear that my banking money, our Lorehammer banking account, is paying for some of your.
someone has to pay for my paycheck.
That's it. Stuffing all my money under my mattress again. To protect against inflation.
That's
So the next
Oh,
race.
wait.
You
Yeah,
wanna-
just a
sorry.
quick little thing on like the influence then for the race. So
Yeah,
we obviously
sorry.
have the Warhammer 40 or Warhammer Fantasy influences. We talked about the old one stuff. A little bit of the culture. There's obviously some Halo-esque like religious zealotry going on in there, especially with the elite grunt kind of relationship. Is
Yeah.
how I picture like the big brute lizards ruling over like the smaller lizards. There,
Yeah.
Eric. If you've played Halo, that's the kind of relationship we got going
Halo
on.
is like a really dumb game.
Oh my gosh.
Only
Okay.
faggots play Halo. Unless it's Halo Wars.
ODST.
ODST.
ODST is fantastic.
Probably the best one, yeah.
Shut up
The
and get
only
out.
noteworthy one. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the only one worth playing.
Yeah. And then the historical ties, obviously.
I'm all about Call of Duty.
It's fun.
It's
you're
way
even,
better than
even
Halo.
worse of a
Really
person.
good.
Any Call of Duty player can beat any Halo player. It's not even a
Unless
contest.
one's playing on PC and one's playing
No,
on
because
PlayStation.
if you're
PC
playing Call of
Master
Duty
Race.
on anything other than PC, what are you doing with your life?
What are you doing playing Call of Duty to begin with?
Yeah,
Because
that's
it's
true.
a way better game than anything else.
Eric's 47 Prestige.
Yeah, bitch.
I'll watch you next time you live stream. I'll be your one fan.
He's gonna see I was lying.
Yeah. So the historical ties, like I said, most of these races have historical ties. There's a very strong, from the Crusade era, the Imperium obviously represents, you have Black Templars and stuff, and the Dark Angels, very knightly orders. This is kind of like a Saracen influence. So you can have that, East versus West kind of Crusade era stuff going on. And their
Smile
name,
for Eric.
their name is actually Arabic for giant lizard or lizard. And the final thing about them that I completely forgot.
What was it?
Moving
Well,
right along.
if I could remember, Eric, I would say.
Sounds like you should have wrote some notes, Christian.
Almost like I wrote this entire episode.
It's a bonus episode.
Oh,
Don't
yeah,
pat
no.
yourself on the back too much.
So a lot of the evolutionary drive, like you see that a lot. That comes a lot from like dinosaurs and birds. I kind of like that from like real life.
I noticed you did sneak in that whole feather thing that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, so it's
I
like
liked it.
a little nod to like, birds and dinosaurs in that relationship, and they kind of see themselves as like that's their next stage. And then the cool thing is Change's
Yeah, it just fits
form
right
is
in with
often
it.
a bird-like, so that's how Change can manipulate them. Like that's their end game desire to evolve to, and that's also why they play around with their genetics, because they're like, let's make ourselves better, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cool little nod to real life as well. That's all.
Cool.
All right.
I like them.
Yeah, I like them a lot. I personally, they're one of my favorite races
Yeah.
on this whole list.
It's just another race that is like super religious, where you just can't even argue with.
Yeah,
them,
and they're like super fanatical, which I
Yeah,
like. Because then,
exactly.
you throw them in with a bunch of Space Marines, you're gonna have a fight. There's
Yeah.
there's no
there's
conversation.
no talking it out. Yeah.
All right. Then who's doing the next race?
I'll do the next one, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one we have is the Taurox. Now, I do want to say we named this before the freaking vehicle came out, first of all.
Yeah, the
Yeah, the Taurox.
Tempestuous Scion.
Scion's
But
vehicle.
whatever, things can have multiple names.
Yeah. And it could be that the Imperium named the vehicle after the race, or the race was named after the vehicle. Like, because this would be like the Gothic version name for
Yeah.
it. So it would make sense. Like, oh, these guys are like big heavy hitters, like a truck. I'm just saying.
Yes.
So
Hits you like a truck.
So
Okay.
The Taurox are a mostly peaceful race in tune with nature and having no particular enmity for the varying races of the galaxy at large. This outlook has been steadily ingrained over the Taurox by the ruling council of shamanistic chiefs, powerful psychers who are naturally in tune with the ebbs and flow of the warp through a disciplined order of psychic practitioners. The Taurox have taken great pains to structure their society and tame their primitive natures. Naturally, the Taurox are very aggressive and inclined to bouts of animalistic violence. The Taurox Council had deemed it necessary to repress their inner savage nature and hone their psychic potential to fuel their technology. This came as a result of the constant tribal warfare the Taurox were prone to in the past, which almost led to the extinction of their race as prolonged wars were fought and their bloodthirsty nature compelled them to exterminate opposing tribes.
That was a mouthful.
The council united many tribes and adopted a religion of peaceful coexistence with nature, an aspect of which it is found and accepted stability in the warp, as a warp is understood as an extension of nature. Though they often prefer. Oh man, Mark's infectious.
Nope. That's something
That's a
that
typo.
You wrote that wrong.
Prefer peace as to not invite their animal rage. The Taurox have also been known to be clouded by self-righteous violence, exterminating any who threaten the stability of the warp. Therefore, they are often at odds with psychers of other races, often dispatching hunter teams to kill psychers and exterminate any who would contribute to instability. They have a particular enmity with the Eldar, who they see as having caused the birth of a god, Slaanesh, the ultimate act of destabilization, and see the psychic potential of the whole race as a threat. Technologically, the Taurox have developed advanced weapons and fleets that rely on warp-based technology. Though it is often unstable, the warriors or pilots using the technology can better channel warp energies with discipline and willpower to help offset the often unruly nature of warpcraft. The symbiosis of technology and warp energy has made the Taurox particularly hated among Xenos breeds by the Imperium, and inert technology is often destroyed or locked away as it's perceived as tainted. Despite this, they are willing to take whatever means necessary to retain their stability, including using force, including force to regain balance in the warp or to maintain the status quo. Their weaponry is based around psychic technology, is prone to instability, and the user is not disciplined or distracted while in use. The Taurox Council was not successful in uniting all the tribes of their worlds, however, and there remain smaller clans who embrace the old ways of violence and brutality. Due to their psychic ability, they often succumb to the whispers of chaos and are...
Sorry, corn.
Well, chaos generally, but yes,
Specific.
corn. And it cites greater and greater acts of violence. They've also been known to fall prey to the machinations of Chinch, becoming corrupted wizards, and at times, and often less so, they have fallen to disease of Nurgle and the excesses of Slaanesh. The Taurox Council prefer peace over war, but will intervene in galactic affairs when they feel the balance of the warp is threatened.
So,
Have you ever heard of Taurens?
Obviously,
From
a big influence.
Azeroth.
Actually, I never thought about them when we were making this one.
Oh, the whole
obviously,
shamanistic thing.
Yeah, obviously, it's. I was definitely thinking more. Like, obviously, it's the exact same thing.
I was thinking
but
Jedis.
yeah, like that's what
Really?
we were going.
That was
for.
actually the big influence.
That's
for
what
them.
we were more
Yeah.
going for.
Well, you can tell what I have spent my time doing.
No,
Playing
and
World of
it's
Warcraft.
a good.
It's definitely
reference for
there.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because these are described as like Tauren, essentially, like they're
Yeah. Peaceful. And,
Yeah.
Oxmen.
Trying to do their best to like live like a balanced life.
Yeah.
And making
And
sure.
is that what their models look like?
Yes, they're Oxmen.
Jump into
So
it. Yeah, it's
we'll
it's
get
the
into it.
Beastmen range from Games Workshop. But what we've done is we've tried to update their technology because obviously Warhammer Fantasy is fantasy. So we brought in a lot of like the Tau stealth suit legs who have hooves but are like advanced tech, and
Yeah.
we're gonna
Yeah, so we'll
bash them.
take them. Then we'll take like a third-party Space Marine torso.
Yeah.
So it'll look different than like it won't have Aquilas on it or anything like that. And then we'll do that, and then the arms will be bare, and then they'll have a Beastman head on it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So they'll have like pretty cool advanced tech.
Yeah. Their guns, they're all going to be wielding like just a two-handed rifle. So,
What would it equate to?
well, we'll get to it. But yeah, that's kind of what they're going to look like. They're going to have power armored torso, legs, stealth suit, Tau legs.
Yeah,
and-
that's a huge kit bash.
yeah.
They're
This
gonna be
and-
a
Yeah,
big
that's
this and
like
project.
6 different things.
Yeah,
you're
this and the
pulling.
silent. They're both going to be good, but
Yeah.
so rules wise, they're going to be using orc flash gits, and the reason for this is because like we were talking, like they use warp technology, but like
It's unreliable.
it's unreliable and they have to focus to use it. Flash kits, their rules is like you roll a dice and that'll determine how powerful your gun is. So it's like
it could
sometimes
be
it'll be
like a las gun, or it can be as powerful as a las cannon.
yeah.
Right, and it's totally random based on dice.
So that goes back to their weapon works a lot, depends on
Yeah.
their own balance
Their
and their
own
own
chi.
Yeah.
Well,
and even
yeah,
their
exactly.
accuracy of the weapons
Yeah.
too may or may not be great because orcs don't
Yeah.
always have the greatest ballistic skill.
Yeah. But the other reason why we chose these guys is because, like, if you look at them, like, they're supposed to be more physically imposing than a human. So you need that strength 4, toughness 4.
Yeah. So physically they're still powerful, but they try to keep out of close combat because they don't want to descend into their brutal nature.
Yeah.
Obvious influences Warhammer Fantasy. The Beastmen are very brutal and savage in Warhammer Fantasy, so we kind of like flip that on its head by making them trying to be peace loving and stuff. We did right. There's obviously World of Warcraft influences, some Native American culture stuff that obviously comes with that as well. But the biggest things were just like Star Wars, Jedi, and Buddhism. With the whole like, they see the warp as being chaotic, and they're trying to bring balance. Right, the way the Jedi are trying to bring balance to the Force, they're trying to bring balance to the warp.
Yeah.
And in that balance, it creates stability.
hubris.
Yeah, and whether or not they're successful is like completely up in the air. And that's why they also like hunt down other psychers because they're like, they're not balanced. They're going to be a threat. Exterminate them.
Hubris.
So
Terrible.
we didn't want them to be just good guys. You know, you
There's
can't
no
have
such thing as-
exactly.
yeah.
So they're very like hostile towards other psychers and psychic races. If you don't get in line with their program, you're getting
Right.
exterminated.
I mean, it makes complete sense.
One side note for models is they have a Beast Twin Shaman model, and
Oh,
we're
yeah,
not
yeah.
even going to convert him at all.
Yeah, like he just
and
comes
he's
as
like,
his-
because he's supposed to have that like leader Jedi feel where it's like robes and like a staff and very like attuned with himself.
Yeah, so he can unleash
And then-
psychic powers.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he'll be like the weird boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So the biggest kind of thing that's kind of in conflict with existing canon, again with Necromunda and just canon at large, Beastmen actually exist as abhumans in the lore.
Yeah.
I honestly don't. I could never even think that's a problem for me.
What
Like
do you
it would
mean?
never even register with me. I'd
Well-
be like, clearly one is human and one is alien.
Yeah, but it needs to be addressed because they look a lot alike.
Yeah.
So the biggest
And here's how Christian does it.
Yeah.
I really like this.
So the biggest thing we did is, so what we were saying is actually the Ungors from the Warhammer Fantasy range, which are a lot more human-like. They're essentially like human upper bodies with smaller horns, more human-like facial features, and goat legs.
Yeah.
Fawns.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
Strix or fawns. Or,
So they're the abhumans, and the actual Beastmen models who have more snouts.
Minotaur.
Yeah,
looking.
more Minotaur-looking,
Longer
bigger, longer
horns,
horns,
yeah.
more bestial. They're actually the Xenos race,
Yeah.
and that's the
And-
distinction between the
Yeah,
two.
and then literally like how they came apart or how the abhumans came to be is crossbreeding somehow.
That's
Rape.
disgusting, Mark.
Like the Imperium's
rape.
done it before.
Yeah.
Felinids, like
Freaking, what do you call them? Space wolves.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they were genetic experiments.
I don't want to talk about it.
So yeah, no, I really
So
like
there's
that
a precedent.
distinction.
Yeah,
Like where
so they can both exist in the same universe without treading on each other's.
yeah,
areas.
because that was one of our rules.
But
Yeah.
neither of them are like official 40K models. So in reality,
No, no.
you could-
Beast-
they are. The
Beastmen,
Beastmen
they
are
have
now
beast
again.
models.
They used to be back in Rogue Trader days, but they just resurrected it for Necromunda. They released a Beastmen model, but they never talk about their origins or where they come from or anything like that. So
because I remember us talking about the Beastmen.
yeah, but yeah.
right, and the final one. Do you want to take it away, Mark?
No, I'm not gonna read another one.
The Scourge.
Oh, but I like this one. Let me read it.
All right.
Rat people. They're crawling around in the sewers and they're like mining for feces. No, you can read it. I don't want to.
The Scourge. The Scourge are a mammalian species of sentient humanoid Xenos. They are societally constructed.
They talk like this, by the way. Lots of teeth. Carry on.
Fit right in.
Oh yeah.
They are societally constructed in family clans who live to colonize and harvest resources from the planets that they encounter. A majority of the species travel the stars in large flotillas and have organized their families into large corporate entities that own these massive fleets and, quote, employ or enslave, end quote.
Oh god. Here we go.
Lesser Scourge.
How can you be a
house
slave and an
clans-
employee at the same time? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, that one actually doesn't. Lesser Scourge house clans and Xeno prisoners. The upper echelons of the clan corporations seek only to exploit the resources of worlds and extend their influence. Within the corporate entities of the Scourge lie insidious research and development teams who study, torture, and create hybridized life forms.
And Eric can build a nuclear reactor.
It takes the illiteracy takes all of us at some point.
Thank you, Chaos.
It is so hot in this goddamn room. Oh my gosh.
like a sauna.
And it stinks like gross people. Christian.
I've only been wearing this shirt for a week, so it's clearly not me.
They torture and create hybridized life forms, genetic experiments, and engage in toxicological studies and weapon development.
I know it's a word because it's not underlined red.
Right. Because of this, the Scourge are known to use a variety of lethal poisons and toxins in their weaponry. They have the closest thing to a steady trade relations with the Dark Eldar, as they exchange resources, especially in the slave trade and poison trade. However, the Scourge, much like the Dark Eldar, can little trust their own families as much as external partners. Mainstream Scourge society is not overly religious and appear to engage in veneration of their ancestors, keeping extensive records of lineage, heritage, and familial ties. Despite this, the heads of households are often not safe even from their conspiring brethren who lust after control of family assets and must always be vigilant lest they be usurped. Two notable factions of Scourge society include the Assassin's Guild and the Plague Monks. The Assassin's Guilds live and work within Scourge society, often hired by the heads of clan corporations and notable family clans as corporate spies to jeopardize competing corporate enterprises, assassinate leaders, and gather closely held corporate secrets from their rivals. Additionally, they serve to protect their lords from other assassins or underlings who are seeking to overthrow the current leadership. The guilds are ancient establishments who are not beholden to any one house and hire themselves out as individuals see fit. They are taught through apprenticeship by previous assassins if deemed worthy to take part in the trade. Finally, the plague cults form an underground sect of Scourge society that have fallen under the sway and worship of the ancient Scourge god of Nerglecht. Nerglecht?
Yeah.
Okay. These
I can tell it's a word because that one somehow is not underlined red.
I'm gonna give you a quick little hint, Mark.
Yeah.
This doesn't underline anything in red, and there are some misspells in here.
It's red on my computer.
It's not on your phone.
So
no.
you're saying some of these words
Exactly.
are not even words?
Exactly.
So you're saying I can read?
You can. It's just what you're reading is
not actually words.
These cults
Yes.
of the Scourge god of Nerglecht are often hidden away from mainstream Scourge society and have enjoyed or suffered varying levels of privilege or persecution over the millennia, depending on which clan lords have come to power. They often meet in secret and engage in occult practices. Some have even seen them summon avatars of their god in the form of a giant multi-horned beast.
So,
there wasn't really a description. I mean, you said it's a mammalian species of sentient humanoid Xenos. But
I went on a little rat person rant, though, didn't I?
You made noises.
No, I thought I said rat people
Yeah, someone's-
mining shit in the sewer. I thought I was...
Yeah. You said something about rats.
Yeah.
Something about rats. But what
Or
are
is it
they?
a wombat?
No, it's a rat, Jordan.
Just wondering.
He's such
Or does it have to be only one kind of rodent?
only one kind.
They're the capybaras.
One rodent
and I
can
will
rule
not
them
hear
all.
another word about it.
Yeah, so the way I picture them working, too, is, like, they're just fucking hoarders. Like,
Yeah, it's just filthy, gross. They just
Yeah,
grab whatever
like-
they can.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's
And they take
valuable, they'll
any-
strip it.
Yeah. And I picture, like, their ships just have huge piles, like, 1,000 feet tall piles of just, like,
Stuff.
None of it... Some
Really
of it's super
useful.
valuable. Most of it's not.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah. I
They'll like
just-
go in a battlefield and like pillage whatever's left and just
Yeah.
like hoard it back to their ship.
So are
Exactly.
these guys like rich then? Or are they not?
They-
Because the
yes
way
and no.
This sounds like it rich, but it would actually have a funny irony if they played themselves up as to be these like
Super wealthy.
corporations.
Yeah.
Right.
But
in
they don't really
reality-
have goods. Like...
Yeah.
Right, so that actually could be really funny.
Yeah.
They're like, we're part of this corporation, and it really is just
We
a
trade
pile
in-
of nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you will every now and again come
Find something
across-
valuable.
Exactly.
Especially if you're looting everything, you're bound to collect some
Yeah.
valuable thing.
Right.
But like, yeah, they're just like these dirty rats. Like,
Which
The
yeah.
sewage dwellers of the galaxy.
yes, sir.
Yeah. You could pretty much sum them up as space Skaven
Yeah, exactly.
from Warhammer Fantasy.
But you might think we're going to be using Games Workshop Skaven models. You would be wrong and a fool.
Dead wrong. And a dead fool.
And no longer allowed to listen to Lorehammer if you thought that. Log off
Get
now.
out. Just get out.
We will be using, for the models, Mantic Games. They have a race called Veerman. VEER
Like
dash.
vermin?
Yes,
M-Y-N.
but it's spelled differently, Jordan. There's a Y
Copyrights,
that
guys.
sounds like an I.
Copyrights on the word vermin.
But they have a cool range of like rat people,
Space rats. But they
So-
have like guns and have like sci-fi tech.
and like gas masks
Yeah,
that like
they look
probably
very cool.
actually are not good.
very useful.
Like they probably like,
have holes in it.
They
right?
actually amplify their
Their
stink breath or
pecs.
something, you know, like.
Yeah. For the rules,
For the rules, on our shelf army, one of the weird things that I've always thought about Games Workshop is I always start a thought and then like 4 sentences. It all connects. It all combines. Here we go. So,
if you
one of the
remember
things-
at the beginning of the episode, Mark
Yeah.
said,
no, so Games Workshop, they released Genes to a Cultist last year, 2 years ago.
Pretty recently.
And like, they're cool, don't get me wrong. I just don't see them as a major player.
Yeah.
So we never put them on the shelf. Like,
they're already represented by Tyranids.
Right. No,
Yeah,
why
exactly,
would you
like-
have them
does
As
any...
a separate faction.
Yes.
Exactly. Like, it's an odd thing. Like,
if
I
you're
could
to do
under-
anything, you'd Battleforge it.
Yeah, like it's just weird that they get their own codex. Like it should have just been one unit in the Tyranid codex, if anything. Like
As cool as they are.
as cool as they are. Like I love their lore behind them, but it's just
They're not a galactic
worthy
player.
of an army.
No, it's just it's odd that they would be considered a separate army
Yeah.
Exactly,
because it's all the
So-
same force.
So having said all that, we do not have them represented on the tabletop because why would we? Like they're
They're Tyranids.
Tyrannids. They're
Yeah.
better
They're already covered.
Yeah, they're better represented by Tyranid models. So we are going to be using Gene Stealer rules, Gene Stealer Cultist rules for the vermin. And the main reason is because they can infiltrate everywhere. Every unit can just pop out of the sewers, dig little rat holes, and pop
Yeah.
out and ambush you.
Yeah. So they're clandestine operators. They use guerrilla tactics, and
Yeah.
they just have like different weapons, loadouts, and things like that.
Yeah.
So they're very varied.
Yeah. And then they also have different stat lines. So like normally in the codex, like everyone will have strength 3, toughness 3 across the entire model range. But they have different strength, different toughnesses, depending on like
the
if
gene
you're
generation.
a hybrid or an abhorrent or if
Right.
you're an actual
You're
gene
an
stealer.
acolyte.
Yeah.
So the Veerman models, they have different scale
Sizes.
of
Yeah.
Veerman. So we have like the tiny basic ones, which will just be like your basic cultists. Then you have like abhorrents, which will be like they're almost like the size of a knob, almost like they're a bigger version.
Yeah. Bigger, tough, strong.
Yeah. And then they have like one other one that's even like more big and more specialized, more big and more specialized. And he's gonna be like the Gene Stealer Lord or Brood Lord.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like it. I actually really like that flavor in that rule set.
Yeah, like
'Cause-
that's one of the ones that really meshes perfectly.
Yeah, because I loved when I first bought like Genestealer Cultist and I was looking through the rules, like the
Yeah.
idea that they're literally just popping out of the ground everywhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it really fits with this like
Yeah.
disgusting race, like
Where they're
of
literally
rats.
like digging holes and like
Yeah.
Yeah,
ambushing
exactly.
you.
Whereas like in the Genestealer, it was all like, oh, they pop out of the sewers.
But I'm playing on a
it's-
grassland.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Whereas these guys, it
They
makes
can literally dig warrens.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds so fun.
Yeah, so that yeah.
I also like the idea that like they view themselves as like really important and very like rich and like
Yeah.
affluent.
I'm a wealthy king.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
but the
As
reality
he sits on
is
his
like,
throne of mud.
right, yeah, that they are not at all, and so they have these like societies and what they view as like very civilized, but they're just disgusting.
Yeah. And they're super numerous too. Like they can almost be found on like
They're all over the galaxy.
yeah. Like not that this is official or
Okay,
anything,
was
but I
gonna
would say
is this
they're
an official or not?
no, not that they're official, but I'd say they're probably like in my head anyways, the second most numerous race.
Yeah. Like they're out there. It's just they don't appear in force, is why they're not like a bigger
Because
problem.
they're not an organized thing.
Yeah.
Like, each
Oh.
one is looking after their own
Their own
trash pile.
interests. Yeah, exactly. So
Their own corporation.
Yeah.
yeah,
Their
exactly.
own company.
Yeah.
And they'll just like infiltrate on your ship, and they'll just go to the next place, and they'll
Yeah.
breed, and
Yeah. Yeah,
gross.
exactly. And then
Now
just
you
get to a
go.
new world and
Then you got Rat King.
yeah.
you know,
So big influence obviously, Eric, are bankers. Disgusting
sounds
creatures
perfect.
that hoard all their belongings in giant vaults.
Yeah, take belongings from other
Yeah.
people.
guys.
The-
It's gonna come in real handy one day. Trust me.
Yeah, the biggest influence is like the corporate dystopia, right? Like Perfect Dark or like Ghost in the Shell. Lots of like mafia, crime, family drama going on. But I wanted to tie in like there's not
Godfather.
there's not really like a corporate dystopia represented in 40K
Yeah.
so much other than rogue traders themselves, but they're kind of now they're going to be a main faction. But
Who was that one?
The Thryxian trade empire.
Yes.
Yeah.
that's
But
it.
even them, like
It's
we
not
don't
the
have-
same.
well, and they're not there anymore. So
yeah.
we don't know much about them.
Yeah.
And
So that's kind of what I wanted to bring into 40K.
it's like the Star Wars Confederation.
yeah, exactly. Like
the
trade unions
Yes,
and like
yes.
Yeah.
you know the Trade Federation. You know they're protecting their corporate interests over like lives and people and
corporate interest.
and everything else, whatever that
Cool.
looks like to them.
Right. Exactly.
And just the last cool thing on them is their name I actually got from Redwall by Brian Jacks. The leader of the rats. His name is Clooney the Scourge.
Clooney the Scourge.
So I decided to give a little nod.
No, the
A
Scourge
little
is
nod.
a little not. A Scourge is a good name for them.
Yeah, I think
Like,
it's better than
do you think they
Beerman
call
or
themselves-
Skaven.
No,
Scourge?
no.
Everyone else calls them the Scourge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One final quick point, again, kind of with the other races, people often think that the Hrud are Space Skaven because of old artwork. There was one that looked like he had a rat tail and a rat
Oh,
snout.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was back in the day, but since the Hrud have been updated to be their own version, like the Bendies, we described that in that one episode with like spinal arms and like
Yeah.
Vertebrae everywhere.
yeah, exactly. So that
Mud
freed up
swamp people.
the Skaven range or models to be
for
incorporated
something
for
else.
something else. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
And that
Cool.
pretty much
So
sums it up.
what else is included in your shelf armies that is because these are the ones you had to create.
Yeah. So
All the other ones are ones that already exist.
I'll go through. Well, we created one other one too, I believe. Well, I created a bunch. So
They're all made up. It's all
No.
fake. We invented 40K.
You already heard
And there's
this.
nothing here.
This is the first
So-
place you ever learned about it.
when I was making them, some of the armies are not legal just because when I make my shelf armies, I want them to be like, what is the first thing you picture when you picture this race? I want them to be iconic. So having said that, some of them, they don't quite work. Like some of them might not have this certain gun, but to me, it's like an iconic thing that they should have or whatever.
Don't
Eric,
look at me. I
You're the
don't-
one making faces over there,
Yeah,
kissy
yeah.
faces at me. But so the way we did it is we kind of broke off the armies into kind of 5 separate categories. Almost like an allies matrix, but
Yeah, not quite like
not quite like that. We kind of did our own. So we did it. Each allies matrix has, or each like tier has 4 armies in it. So in the first tier, we have Imperium. So we have Imperial Guard. We have a Space Marine army. We have an Inquisition army that holds like, it has Grey Knights, it has Sister Battles, and it has Death Watch, and it has some Tempestus Scions in it. So like that army is not a legal army because it's from 8 different codexes, right? But whatever. The points values are all there. And then the final one is the Mechanicum. Because to me, those are like the primary fighting branches of the Imperium. Like, sure, they have Imperial Knights. Sure, they have other things.
This is what you, if
Like
you were to
this-
see anything.
Exactly. That's what you're going to be running into. Then underneath them, we have Chaos. And
It's the exact opposite.
it's the exact opposite. Yeah, you got your Chaos Space Marines. You got your Renegade Militia for your Imperial Guard. You instead of having
Inquisition.
the Inquisition, you have Chaos Demons. This like specialized army of like
Yeah, and you have
All
each of the
4
gods
different courses.
represented.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
All 4 forces.
led by a Space Marine Demon Prince whose paint scheme will match like the Chaos Space Marines paint scheme. And then also they have the Dark Mechanicum. So I'm making up the Dark Mechanicum because they don't have rules, but they have lore. So that's like the Chaos. Then if we jump into Xenos armies, there's 3 kind of separate tiers for them. I'm not totally happy with the wording of them, but it's like there's a good tier, there's a neutral tier, and then there's an evil tier. And basically this shows how like willing they are to do good things in the galaxy or to ally themselves with
yeah.
others.
It's always tough when you use the word good with 40k, but you get
Exactly.
the general idea, right?
Yeah,
like
like-
Tau aren't as vicious, let's say, as Dark Eldar.
Yeah, and that's why I
right?
hesitate to use the word good. But so on the good tier, we have the Tau, the Eldar, and then we also have the Demiurge, which are like, I'd say they're pretty decent. Like they're not. We described them
They
as
are not
defensive.
willfully
They're
violent.
defensively
Yeah.
hostile, I think is what we said.
Yeah.
And then we also have the Toroks, which we were describing as like Jedi. Like they're kind of
Yeah, they're not looking for fights, but
But they'll do
there
it if they
are
have to.
there are
Yeah,
occasions.
and they're looking out for the good of the universe.
yeah, exactly. It's
or the
not they're not
galaxy.
killing you out of selfish pleasure. And they're trying to like rein that in for
They're just
themselves.
killing you because it's the right thing to do.
Well, they're killing you because you're a threat to the warp at large, right?
And I see like all 4 of those will easily ally with anyone.
Yeah,
Essentially.
as long as you play by their rules.
Chaos.
Other than for chaos and other than for evil. But they'll ally with the Imperium, they'll ally with other good ones, and they can ally with neutral. So then we jump into the neutral. And there's Dark Eldar. And there's so there's only Dark Eldar for actual official Games Workshop. And then there's also the Sahalin. There is the
Is it the Kronos?
Kronos. Trying to just remember. Then there's what are all the other ones that we mentioned? Oh, sorry. Actually, the Mangani, they're actually on the top shelf. Or sorry, not on
They're
the
a
top
good?
shelf. They're a good. And then the Toroks are a neutral because they can do good and they can do bad things. Sorry. Where
Depending
the,
on what
on the balance.
where the Mangani are more of like that. They're more noble and honorable. Yeah, exactly. They're not just like
Savage brutes. yeah.
exactly. They're looking for that nice fight. So
They won't slaughter
then-
civilian population.
Exactly. Like it's not in it. That doesn't do it for them. But like if you have an aggressive army, they're gonna go after it. But anyway, so that's all on that neutral shelf. Then we have the evil shelf, which is like these are not allying with anything. Like they're in it for themselves. So we have Necron, who they're just trying to save the entire galaxy. We have Orcs. You can't ally with them. Like you might think you can, but a day later you're not going to be able to. And we have Nids. Same thing. Like there's no allying with them. And then the faction that we put in there was the Vermin, where it's like
Scourge.
the Scourge, where they're just like filthy, gross, and no one really wants to ally with them.
Yeah.
No, but they're also like
Yeah, they'll backstab you just as fast. As,
Exactly.
You know.
yeah. So that's kind of how like the shelf armies work. So if you're playing like bigger point games, you could just take like all the good armies. Then you have 2,000 point
Yeah,
games.
and it makes sense that they all would work together, right? Or you could take
Yeah.
all the Imperium shelf, or you could take all
Exactly.
the Chaos shelf, or
Yeah.
So
So that's kind of how I got it working in my head, anyways. I don't know.
yeah, no.
Are you proud of me now, Mom? Oh, you're proud of me now?
Short answer, no.
But yeah.
Okay, that's kind of cool. I know you've wanted to share the shelf armies for a while now.
Yeah, well, people come in and
See
they like
them.
see them and, oh, what is this? So it's like, yeah.
I have to
Now you
explain
know.
3 pages of lore to you.
Well,
so you
now I'll just send them a
understand.
quick little link.
Yeah.
Listen to this podcast.
Just listen to this 2-hour podcast. It's fine.
Yeah,
So-
that was pretty cool. I like most of it.
Yeah, if you could pick a favorite and then pick a least favorite.
My favorite is actually probably the Scourge.
Just because you like that irony of it?
I do. I love
it's
that.
like your life.
I
Valuable, but really you're a dirty, filthy man.
mean, you're
Stuck
not,
in a basement.
You're not wrong.
Hoarding your treasures.
Which aren't even valuable. No, I really like that. I like the idea of these little things just crawling around and you just boot them out of the way when they're in the way. But the reality is they're like, my family will get you. Right? Like, my cousin Freddy's going to come and bite your...
Mess you up real good.
Yeah, he's going to bite your carotid artery. Like, that's what it's just that ridiculousness.
I thought we described it that the voice was like, no actual words.
Well, then how could they
Whatever
make
the
trade
language
deals?
is.
How could they make trade
They don't even
deals?
bother speaking other languages.
They just
okay?
point to stuff. No, I actually really like them.
Yeah.
My least favorite, I mean, it's the Sahalans, but only because
You don't understand
I
it.
seem to
I get it.
struggle with that part in their story.
Okay.
I love the lizard model line.
Yeah.
I really like that, especially after seeing that one guy's at the convention. But I'm just holding back on the story.
Yeah. Jordan, you got any answers? You got some compliments for me and Christian here?
Yeah. You guys are
Clearly
really good.
losers.
No, I think you actually some of your races are better than the Xenos in 40K, the minor Xenos.
Wait, you're telling
the
me
minor Xenos. He
Yeah,
said.
the minors.
you're telling me you don't like that one race, so it's just all we know about them is that they were exterminating the Great
Yeah.
Crusade? Okay.
Pretty
Sure,
much.
Jay.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's hard to be better. I'm just saying it is.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I think the coolest, the most it's more like most interesting and least interesting to me. I think the Coronas are the
Yeah.
most interesting, and the least interesting to me are the Demiurge.
Yeah.
So
It's such a basic
yeah,
idea.
it
Yeah,
is
exactly. No, fair enough.
It is like a very simple, yeah,
Interesting
Dwarves
that Game
in
Workshop
space.
wrote the Demiurge and not
Us.
yeah. Well, of these,
Christian.
yeah. But you put it on here.
No, Christian did all this.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because we added a
Christian
little
can
bit to it
type.
Okay.
and read.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, I can see that for sure.
I think that Coronas just make for really interesting stories.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Like, so and I like how I like anything that's kind of mysterious. So
Yeah. No, absolutely. Christian, what's your favorite?
I like the Sahelan.
Yeah.
I like their look and feel, and
I kind of like him too.
yeah,
Yeah.
They just like seem so sleek and like sexy. I like it.
Yeah.
And probably least favorite, I actually got to say the Kronos.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they just I don't know. It's just time travel I always struggle with. Just as a general rule, I like
Yeah.
them in principle. Like the idea is cool.
Well, I like that we took it, and it's like it's not like they're good at time travel. They fuck up every
Yeah,
time. Like, that's what I like about it.
That's true.
Like,
and it's not that I don't like them. Like
No,
obviously,
I know what you're
we
saying.
wrote them.
yeah,
So.
I know what you're
But
saying.
of the ones that on
They're
the list,
your least favorite
my
child.
least favorite child.
They're
yeah.
your Kurt.
They're the one. They're the one that I would cut out of the inheritance. That's for sure.
Eric's dying over there. He loves it.
No!
Oh fuck, that's funny.
You don't have much of an inheritance to give them, Christian. It's fine.
Yeah, but
You don't get any of my comics. Mark, what's your favorite? What's your least favorite?
Well, I rotate. I'm slowly rotating out of being a dwarf guy, and since I'm working on the Veerman or the Scourge, I'm becoming a Scourge guy. But that will change by the time I get to my next army. I can't.
it's just whoever he's playing.
What's
with.
the story you think that could use more work?
Yeah, like Jordan said, I think it'd be the Demiurge. Like, it is one of those like minor Xenos, almost throwaway, almost forced in. Like they're very clearly supposed to be dwarves. Like,
Yeah.
but they didn't expand on it. Yeah.
That's actually one of the reasons I was reading that GW scrapped the idea of space dwarves is because initially the space dwarves were bikers was kind of their theme, and they weren't happy with it. They couldn't
Yeah, there
come
was
up
nowhere
with
to go,
anything.
and-
Yeah, they couldn't come up with a direction as
It's too
40K.
gimmicky.
Yeah.
It came out of the Rogue Trader stuff and was trying to be serious, and they're like, we can't make
Yeah.
this serious. So
Yeah.
they just dropped them all together.
I think the main reason why I like the Demiurge so much is just their models. They're some of the coolest models.
Yeah, they
Just
definitely.
like-
Mantic has a pretty sweet range of stuff. You
Yeah.
go to their website, check it out.
Yeah.
If you want to build one of these armies at home,
yeah.
give Mantic some money. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, it's way cheaper.
Yeah, for real.
But yeah, like my favorite.
Hey,
will
GW is
change.
not sponsoring us.
We
so.
do not endorse this.
So, if I had a least favorite, I think it'd be the Mangani, and I think that comes down to just the model range. I'm just not happy with it, but the lore's fine.
Yeah.
I think people will be like it. It
Oh, yeah,
sucks that
sure.
there's space gorillas. You can't do much about what the models look like. I'm not big on that either, but I think they're pretty sweet.
I personally would have liked to see like a bug type one.
It's hard with NIDs already existing, and then you also have
exactly.
the Tau ones, the
Vespid.
Like
And
they're
there's
out there.
tons
Sorry, I'm
of
more thinking
minor
like
Xenos.
when in my head I'm like slug, like a
Yeah.
slug.
Oh, you want a
race.
space
Oh,
slug?
so
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. Like a slug like type of body that can like break up and like go back together.
Again, we're
Like
limited with
liquid
What if you
style.
did,
I
like,
know you
models
are.
and
I know
I know
you
you
are.
even did like I guess I don't know if there'd be a model for this, but almost like a mantis, kind of that something that like almost hot.
So
like,
there-
It's kind of the
there,
best bit.
there is.
Oh, yeah,
but
I
they
guess
do
so.
kind of already represented. Like Mantic has a pretty sweet range of Dreadball players that look
Okay.
like Mantis.
Okay.
I think they're even called Mantis Warriors or something
okay.
like that, and they're aliens that look like bugs. They're cool looking.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
again, Nids, Vespid,
I-
they're out there. They
yeah,
exist.
I just think the bug is already done.
Overdone.
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
I love the idea of space slugs. I think it's
Um,
so wild.
So, do you guys remember the THYRRUS Thyrus?
Tyrus.
Yeah, and they're like those. They're all about the performance, and they're almost like squid slugs.
And they'll even like do damage to themselves.
yeah,
Yeah.
those guys. I'm talking to this one guy named Matt, and he's like modeling one of those out of green stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But right now it looks very much like a slug.
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, I'm gonna add some tentacles, maybe add some like dragonfly wings. It's gonna look pretty sweet.
That's
Yeah.
pretty funny.
Yeah.
There's just space slugs right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and if you look
Just
at and if you
commission a bunch of models from
yeah.
him.
Well, if you look at like the pictures of the Thyrus, they almost do have that sluggy appearance more so than like
It would be really
a
cool to
squid.
see those
Yeah.
guys like and to try and like try and add on to a little bit of their story because you don't have much other than like how crazy they are.
Yeah, but
Right? So
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for listening to our bonus episode where Mark and Christian just got to splurge all over you guys.
yeah. Now splurge all over us with your wallets. Hit us up on Patreon.
It's not called Patreon.
Patreon. Wait,
it's
what?
a pain. It's a Patreon.
Yeah, check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Twitter. Send us an email. We have a Patreon where you can donate to our cause.
We just
of
got our,
educating. We've got a Redbubble.
Yeah, we got some T-shirts and they turned out pretty cool.
Yeah, we bought some
Mark's
t-shirts
been wearing
for
his for a
ourselves.
week.
Yeah.
Redbubble though is a place where we submit our art that we own and you can purchase it on products, so which is kind of cool. You can buy some Lorehammer merch and we do make money off of that. Review us on iTunes because that's how we're gonna get famous.
Do people? I've never actually checked our iTunes review.
We don't have a lot of reviews, but we actually have a decent amount of ratings.
Let me
But reviews are good too. But in the end, guys, we do it for you. So thanks for participating in everything that we do. You guys are great at responding back.
Send Eric your fan fiction.
The
messier, the better.
Honestly, I will read and I will judge that shit so hard. And if you submit it, most likely I'm gonna read it on here.
Yeah. So if you want to get
So-
famous, do it.
Yeah.
If it's really good or really bad, either way, Eric will.
Oh,
do it.
I don't care. We'll make it good.
Try-
I'll add stuff to it. I'll do voices for this. I don't even care. But yeah, anyways, this has been our bonus episode, and thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for listening. It was a story to tell, and now we're telling it, and now it's told, and now the story's out there to be told by you guys to other storytellers, and it's all just a big
Someone
story.
reset him.
He's broken.
Broken again.
Yeah, peace out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Open a window.
It's so